Anyway, hello, I'm the Chris Who Plays Games, and welcome everybody who's here. Wow, 7 people watching. That's weird. How's it going? Bob Frey, GGC, hello. This is one game in very mixed on. I don't know how to understand those words. They don't mean things to me. Jason, welcome. I'm the Chris Who Plays Games, and tonight we're going to be playing some TMNT1. I have avoided this game for a long time, but the time has finally come. I'm going to abuse save states like my life depends on it, because my life will depend on it, because there's no way I can beat this game without them. Oh, you're very mixed on. I see. Yeah. Well, this one he's doesn't mixed on. He's very mixed on. So, you know, we got even more mixed going on than usual. But yeah, so we'll take advantage of save states the way that we do, because I'm the Chris Who Plays Games. Cheating is one of the keys. That's a little bit better. I feel like everything is off, and I just dropped my phone, and yeah. Hello to Skies Falling and everybody else. Alright. Mixed on Raisin Bran. No problem. Take care, Bob Frey. I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate everybody stopping by. Hanging out here with the Chris Who Plays Games. But yeah, so we're going to dive right into it. Let's get into the game. Thank you very much, Jason Landham, for subscribing. Alright, let's... Oh, why did I want it to be not this guy. Well, that was okay. Oh wow, it's so confusing. I've got 2 monitors now, which means I've actually got like my stream thing up and OBS up, and I've got room and so on and so forth. You hate raisins. You hate raisins. Nobody gonna lay a finger on my Butterfinger. Oh wait, no, this is not it. That's the wrong game. I'm so confused. Oh, is the game kind of quiet, or is the game good? I can't tell if it's quiet or not. You know me, I'm always like, the volume, I hate the volume. Yeah, you should see how this goes. How far did you finish up your terrible Iron Sword game, or are you still working on that tomorrow, you think? Yeah, I need to pull out the Donatello. Yeah, I was gonna pick Donatello, absolutely. I mean, Raphael is useless. Michelangelo is acceptable, but Leonardo is second best, and Donatello is obviously best by far. So let's see if we can at least get across here. There we go. We got it with that, and we're good. Hello, Jose. Hello, Mrs. CPG. It's good to see you. Bye-bye, Iron Sword. Well, that's great. It makes me sad I can't, like, hop off those things. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I guess I can change anytime. I forgot that. Alright, we're good. Everything is fine. All is well. Oh god! The only problem with Donatello is he has a little bit of trouble with the short guys. And I am clearly screwing... Alright, let's get back to Leonardo. I don't have the skills for Donatello right now. I'm gonna take a little bit to kind of adjust here, and then we're gonna be all well and good. Alright, so now we can switch to Donatello so we can fight this boss. Alright, come on, boss. Oh god. Alright. Yeah, so one thing I always did is I'd always jump up here and I'm like, look, I'm right there. I could have just taken April right then, but I did not enjoy this game back in the day. This game is not acceptable, is my opinion, but we gotta play it someday. We gotta play it. Anyway, hello Org Chaos, hello Falcon Man. Look at all these lovely people hanging out here. We got Pyrokin, we got Soy Bomb, the Retro King. It's like a crazy party up in here, and you're all invited. So thank you all for being here. As you know, I'm the Chris who plays games, playing retro games every Monday at 9:15, whatever I feel like every Friday at 9:15. This Friday we're going to be playing some indie games, I think. I've got Run Rabbit Run, and a couple other things. I'm not sure exactly which I'm going to go through. Maybe we'll play some Bastion, maybe we'll play something else. I don't know. But I want to, after going to PAX East, I want to get back into showing some of the indie gamer love. I am looking forward to playing more indie Retroidvania platformers in the coming weeks and months as some of the ones that I saw at PAX East come out. So I just want to get everybody in the mood for some great indie gaming action this Friday. I had a pretty good birthday. I mean, I had a good time with all of you here. Let's go with that. My birthday on Sunday was instead spent most of the time, you know, I puked in the morning, slept in the afternoon, but, you know, I had enough alcohol that I knew that was coming all along. As I said, I make this mistake either accidentally or on purpose about once a year, and this was my chime, so I did that fully aware of what I was getting myself into, and it worked out okay. Birthday puke indeed. So yeah, I did watch all of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, so I got to see that. Talked to my mother a little bit about closed captions on YouTube. I guess she had never realized before that our automatic captions have, for many, many years, been absolutely terrible. And so she was somewhat surprised by that. I don't think I need to be in here for anything. I think that turtle is all there is. There ain't no more unless I see that bear once more. That's all there is. There ain't no more unless I see that bear once more. Of course, now what's going to happen is that I'm going to die as this turtle right here. And then I'm going to need that extra turtle. That's right. You like that big behind the back sticking? Okay, Frogman. There we go. Yeah, but it got me nothing. Nothing! Spent all weekend watching Iron Fist. Interesting. I have never heard of Iron Fist. How was it? Are you enjoying it? I talked to Stingray a little bit. He tried to get me to convince me that I should go back to watching Shark Tank, which I don't know if I'm gonna take him up on. Alright. So should I just die and then come back in here and get that turtle? Or should I not? Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I am getting wrecked. Alright, let's do this. You were certainly a special child, Kin. I don't think there's any arguing that. God damn it. I don't know how I'm supposed to get off of, like, if I climb down, I'm just gonna run into things anyway. I don't know how I'm supposed to get through that quick enough. But yeah, so one of the things, of course, is that Donatello's weapon is also stronger. In addition to having ridiculous reach, his weapon is also stronger. Also, you just clipped like right through the ground there. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I would buy it. It was made by Ultra, so I don't know if Ultra also did the G.I. Joe game. Which, did Ultra later join with Rare, or is that my imagination? I just feel like I saw those brands together. Oh, that is not what I thought it was. Well, shit nuggets. I thought that was like a rescue your turtle thing, and so here I am, like, oh, if I screw up, I'll just be able to go back and get it. So that was a giant waste. I'm dumb. You don't have to come in for the midnight release. Well, how are they gonna deal without you, Van Helsing? At the game stop. Yeah, I always do that one wrong because there's a website called GameSpot, which does like game reviews, and I met someone from there once, and I totally said it wrong, and ever since then, I've been totally like screwed up, so. Hello, Nicholas, how's it going? Alright. Oh. Well, that's interesting. Alright, let's just kill you. There we go. Come on. Yeah, these enemies I don't like. I already lost a turtle because I'm a dumbass, and I really knew that that sewer wasn't going to go anywhere, but there I was, screwing around with it anyway. Alright, so what do we got now? Alright, here we go. Oh god. That's right. Yeah, you like that? Huh? I'm gonna go right through you. Alright. Problem is, I don't have Donatello to do the cheating way of attacking this boss, but you can just actually stand up on this ledge up here, and if you're Donatello, you just like shoot downwards and it's all good, but without that, I'm just gonna have to like fight him more of an old-fashioned way. There we go. Oh yeah, did I say Rocksteady? I don't even know. My incessant rambling. I mean, that's basically what I do. Incessant rambling is my gig, so. I mean, this is why I say this. It's what I say I do different than anybody else. I never shut my goddamn mouth, so. They're both the same guy. I mean, really, one's a rhinoceros and the other one's a hippopotamus or something. I don't know. Apparently, what you're doing in this game is supposed to be rescuing the, like, taking back the transformer gun from Shredder, so that you can transform Splinter back into a human. Which I mean, I guess in theory I realized that Splinter was not always a rodent, but I never really thought of him as a human that you needed to rescue and bring back to life, so I learned that. Backstory, turns out. Presumably if I could have read when I, you know, had the owner's manual, I could have learned these things. It's one of the interesting things about, you know, again, to go back to retro games is physical owner's manuals. I guess The Binding of Isaac actually has a physical owner's manual if you buy the Wii Switch whatever version of it. So they're actually including an owner's manual in the case, which I find interesting. I think that's a nice callback to the Nintendo of old. And I actually, Always Awakening, which is the game that we've been playing a couple times recently, is doing a release of their soundtrack on an NES cartridge, and they're also doing like an official like game box and instruction manual and everything else like that. So lots of cool people trying to do, you know, a little bit more of that feel that you got with the older games. So I've not seen Logan. No, I have not. Get out of here. I am trying to smack people with a sword. Just me, myself, and I. I mean, so they make sense in some cases. I think I might have used them in cases where, like, especially like Mega Man or other things like, I mean, Mega Man's really bad because the codes were just such a pain in the butt to record, but like in general, if you've got like passwords or something, I think those note sections are sensible. I can sort of imagine how you would use it for something like Zelda, a little, like at least in theory, even if I can't think how in practice you would note these things, but I like the idea of being able to use that. I don't know if I ever did. It would be interesting if I, you know, like could look back on myself at that time. Is that something that I really cared about? Now, of course, I would be more likely to, you know, take notes on a computer or on my phone or something like that. So this jump, I'm terrible at. Always have been. There we go. But I did it, so never mind. Eric, how's it going? Hey, Polar Plays. I was so terrible at that jump. Well, there's another one apparently that's just 1 block wide, and I was actually talking to somebody at work, and he was like, oh yeah, that 1 block wide jump, you just walk across it. And I'm like, seriously? Like, I looped over that thing so many times thinking that I had to do something else, and all I have to do is just walk, and I just, like, go straight across it? And he was like, yep. And I was like, god damn it. Yeah, see, Mikey L. the Gamer, he knows what's going on. He knows the score, but I had no idea. Oh, god. Nope. So is there another one to the left? I feel like there's going to be another one to the left. But I could be wrong. Ow. I am right. Haha! Yeah, it's almost like Nintendo tried to tell people not to do that, and it didn't work. The Switch console just tastes like plastic, so on that front, you've got no worries. But, you know, yeah, no, I have no plans to put the Switch cartridges in my mouth. I feel like it's silly. I know everyone felt tempted to do it, but if everyone was jumping off a bridge, would I do it? Probably. But I don't feel the need to taste Switch cartridges. It's just not in my DNA. Of course, at the moment, my DNA is full of turtles, so. Alright. Yes, I'm going to get all of my turtles killed on this damn level. Ah, damn level! What a good joke! Oh, I'm so smart. Alright, let's watch out for this. Probably because they just thought about it. I think another thing is that they're smaller, so, like, they're probably more of a choking hazard than the old ones were. Jose's got it. He knows the score. Oh. I think they're the size of, like, SD cards? I don't know. Hey, Raining Ravens, how's it going? Alright, we made it through the dam level. We haven't used any of our continues yet. I am missing Donatello because I did something stupid, thinking something different, but, you know. Yeah, so if you're, I think a couple people might be a little bit more behind than usual, so you might want to tap that live button, make sure you're caught up to live, because right now, like, there's so much stuff going on. I don't know, I'm just talking. I just talk, I just babble. So yeah, oh, we're waiting for you. Ha ha ha, I should have been reading this thing, I was not. A small narwhal was slain by Max's channel with the help of 19 others. A centaur with 628 health approaches. Alright, now I have a turtle van, so I got that going for me, which is nice. I have very little life on any of my turtles, which is not so nice. How do I get out of the van? There we go. No, out of the van. Oh my god, the select button on this controller sticks. Ah! Like the one game where the select button actually does something, and it sticks. Well, I mean, like, I guess it sticks on all games, but never mind. Hush you. Alright. Oops. Okay. Yeah, we're good. All good here. Is there pizza over here? Maybe? Alright. I'll take it. Hey, Dennis, how's it going? Yes, Septipus the Bot is a mod here. Mods here are not hard to get. Really, Van Helsing? I mean, it depends on how you're gonna get your games, right? If you're gonna buy all your games, like, in physical copies, I feel like there's not a lot of need to, yeah, so this jump here is the one that I never knew you can just walk across. So, had I ever played next to Mikey L the Gamer when I was growing up, I would have just known that. But instead, I go through this goddamn loop a million times, avoiding these goddamn guys every time, and it sucks. Alright. I'm gonna die. And I went too far. Oh, I didn't. So there's this jump, which is bad as well. So I can't walk right over that one, right? That feels like it's too far. Likes are for chumps. I don't really, like, there's this whole belief that likes give you, like, so much XYZ, and, like, I don't know, I like videos when I watch them, I click the button. I'm not convinced that, like, other people seem to be, that, like, the difference between 16 likes and 107 likes is actually meaningful. It just seems like it's a lot of, you know, a lot of bupkis. A lot of bupkis, that's what I say. I'm trying to think. Let's see. I did have one of my friend's older brothers who hung out with us sometimes, but 5 years is a lot. So I did get into a Tetris competition with my next door neighbor who was 5 years older than me. I did a couple other things like that, so probably not a lot, but there's a chance. It's all right. No, I just, like, you know, I don't mind. I appreciate the sentiment behind it. But I think people just attach a lot to, you know, they're like, oh, like, if only I get the perfect combination of metrics, like the combination of views with watch time retention with, like, you know, everything else, and it'll be perfect, and I will then become a YouTube god. Everyone will bow down before me, and I will become known as, you know, Reigning Raven's destroyer of worlds. And I'm not saying you believe that in particular, it's just a common belief that I think people have on YouTube. And I just look at it and I'm like, how about I just make better content? You know, like, I was actually just looking up Family Tracker tracks earlier today, and I have the #1 search hit for, or #2 search hit for Family Tracker. And that's because I made something that's actually kind of cool and different, and that's where my goal is. And so I did the default tutorial, which I have not, unfortunately, edited into a little bit more concise form, which I want to do. In part to attempt to create something unique, you know, create something different from everything else that's out there, because I feel like that's the way to really go forward. You know, make something different, make something new. So I was out there watching short films this morning, and I think one of the things about short films is that they're great, but a lot of these short films have, like, tiny numbers of views, and they've clearly put in a lot of effort on it. But the problem is that because they're not producing content on a regular basis, and they're not producing, like, it's kind of hard to search for stuff. Like, if you're producing a dramatic short film, like, all I can search for in order to find it is, like, dramatic short film. There's not a lot of kind of discovery there. But, you know, I kind of... Okay, so here's the thing. How do I get across this? Take care, painstakingly played. I will see you later. I don't know, Van Helsing. I don't understand trending at all. It makes no sense to me. Alright. So I'm gonna do this. Ah! Okay, I just have to stand on the edge. Alright, fine. Alright, fine. Ow. So one of the problems with Donatello in this is that he doesn't have, like, Leonardo's kind of reach is actually quite nice. So although his damage, yeah, so this, you can just walk across. And I had no idea. Like, I would always try and jump across it or do whatever, and it never worked. And it's just like, you know, that's literally where I would lose, like, 3 turtles, is trying to make that jump. But eventually I would, like, you know, manage it by accident. Alright, I'm gonna grab this pizza. So yeah, I mean, do likes get you higher up in recommendations algorithms? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the likelihood that, like, you know, the difference in the likes that I can get, you know, my most liked video has like 100 likes, my least liked video has, like, you know, 38 dislikes and 5 likes or something like that. It seems to me that the difference between 5 and 100 just can't be that much if this is like a linear scale, you know, factor. It's just not something that I can imagine being enough to make a meaningful difference statistically. So I look at that, and the same thing about, you know, I was talking to Soybomb the other day about tags, and he was like, so what do you do for tags with Stream Now? And I'm like, I don't bother. Like, I go through, like, my CPG rants where people are going to watch them later. Like, I do more tags there, but realistically, I don't expect to have a ton of search discovery for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles while I'm live. And so it's just not something that I prioritize, so. Alright. So I think jumping up that gap feels like exactly the sort of thing that I would have done when I was a kid, just because I couldn't figure out any other goddamn way to do it. Alright, so we got some foot soldiers here I can run over. Let's do that. Yeah, under advanced info, so if you click on there's like an advanced edit or something like that button, and that will take you to a full like live control room for the stream, and from there you can put in tags if you want to. Well, so Soy Bomb, I think it is true that if you compare to Leonardo, Leonardo's got a nice sweep with his sword, so he'll kind of do like, you know, up and you know, forward and through the entire arc, whereas Donatello doesn't do that. So I think it's not unreasonable to say like this felt like it was less, you know, complete or whatever. All right, so what is even in this block? Anything? Go in here? Oh god. All right. I'm like trying to figure out like, what should I do now? Alright. Go. So yeah, so if we do Leo, we can see that Leo's sword kind of sweeps through this entire arc of motion, whereas Donatello, like, does not. He's very much straightforward. You won't hit a mouser if he's standing right in front of you that way. Okay, so is this just another way to get more pizza? Because I don't actually need pizza at the moment. I need something, I need to like find the end of the level. I mean, I think, I do agree that it is unreasonable to dislike it more than Raphael's. Like, Raphael's weapon is so short, and I think has a lot of the same properties of just going like down, up, whatever. Because it doesn't have that swing at all, but I can understand how Donatello is not your favorite. I just can't understand how anyone's weapon can be better than Raphael's. Or worse than Raphael's. Ow, that was close. Got that short hop. Alright. How much money do YouTubers earn per view? You know, Dennis, I find that, like, every time you're here, pretty much all you do is ask me YouTube questions the entire time. It's never like, Chris, how was your day? Or, like, Chris, how's the wife and kids? No, it's always about YouTubers. So, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like maybe I'm being used, you know, and I don't know how I feel about that. Normally, I like being used, but sometimes I just feel like I need a little love, my friend. He's good meat shield. 22 people? My day is so I don't know, like, I guess YouTube gets 1 billion watch hours per day. If everyone watches videos for 5 minutes, that means that let's see, 1 billion times 12 billion views a day, and so I earn approximately, like, I don't know, whatever, and my salary divided by 12 billion is. That's how much money I earn per view. I don't know about that. No, so on average, YouTube ads pay out about $1 per 1,000 views. That can vary a lot for a lot of different reasons. It can vary because you know, of ad placements. It can vary because of ad placements. It can vary because of your monetized views. It can vary because of the length of your video. So there's a lot of variation from, you know, everywhere from you only get overlay ads and therefore you get, like, you know, 5 cents per 1,000 views to you get tons and tons of unskippable pre-roll ads and you get a lot more money and so on and so forth. I mean, making $1 for me as a streamer is actually a lot easier than it is otherwise, because of YouTube Red. YouTube Red, you know, if you've got a couple of people who watch your stream using YouTube Red, I make about 5 cents per watch hour from YouTube Red based on the math in my dashboard. So I don't know how that works out for everybody, but I think it should be about the same for everybody. And I've noticed that number going up over time a fair amount. And you know, so I've gone from making like 2 cents per watch hour to 5 cents per watch hour over the past year as YouTube Red has rolled out further and been available to more people and so on and so forth. And overall, I get most... I mean, I don't even run ads on my streams anymore, just because they were paying like 2 cents, but I still have the monetization options on and don't enable any ad types, because I want that sweet, sweet YouTube Red money. So, from my birthday stream yesterday, I got $2 in YouTube Red ad revenue. So, yeah. Oh, god damn it. Yeah, it turns out that the Ninja Turtles can't swim, which is a little bit of an odd issue to have, but you know, we don't beat them up too much for that. I like the flicker we got going on here. It's definitely quite fancy. It's actually one of the things that I found interesting. So the game that the NES game that I saw at PAX is being developed on, you know, a new NES game that they're releasing called Haunted Halloween 86. And one of the things they actually did is they have like fake parallax, and the way they do it is they have a little section down in the front, which I didn't figure this out for a while. I was like, how did you do that? But it turns out that they, there we go, you got those fat stacked dollar bills. Thank you very much, the Falcon Man. Never trust Falcon Man, but here he is. Not all turtles swim. I mean, these turtles should swim. That's all I'm saying. They're like teenagers. I mean, really. Hey, I got Walking Man. Good job, Walking Man. I don't know what you do.
XD.
Yeah, I mean, if you pay for Spotify, I feel like Google Play Music is, or Google Play Music combined with YouTube Red is pretty awesome. Ooh, I got a nice sweep thing. Yeah, so I know for a while I had like topics going on, and tonight I had no topic, but I do have some notes. So we could talk a little bit about Bavarian zombies, not Bavarian, Bolivian zebras, not zombies. Bolivian zebras is what I meant to say, which is kind of like Bavarian zombies if you don't know words. Well, so Oni, we already beat the dam a while ago. What's the deal with airplane food? No, first of all, Jose, I can choose my own choices. I'm a grown-up. And second of all, I'm not doing alcohol tonight because I got really drunk on Saturday and I don't want to drink again for another month. I can make that choice. I'm a real grown-up with my own brain. Yes, there you go, Bacon Creepy. You know what's going on. Yeah, if you're getting errors in chat, you can feel free to use youtube.com instead of gaming.youtube.com because it will not have errors. Falcon Man definitely pays for attention. Me too, man. Me too. I'm a big fan of paying for attention. It's one of the reasons that I love Super Chat. I think that it is the appropriate amount of attention for me. So I've been super happy with it. Wow, that was stupid. I should have like had Raphael. YouTube gaming is always glitchy. YouTube's always 5% broken. That's the rule. So yeah, I'm a big fan of paying for attention. I think it is a completely reasonable choice to make. If you've got the money, pay for attention. Do it. Let's do it, baby. Ow. You do have the best van, but you've got like the second best van. Use YouTube instead of YouTube gaming, it'll fix the chat. Except on mobile, it doesn't fix it on mobile, and that's a different problem. We don't know what that is yet, so. We don't actually know what either are, but we're working on it. But yes, so I was watching John Oliver earlier tonight because it's Monday, and on Monday I have to watch John Oliver with Mrs. CPG, otherwise, you know, my life is incomplete. And John Oliver, in addition to talking about the new budget being proposed in the US. Okay, so I think I've got to do something here. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I've got to use this rope. Ow, my freaking select button. God damn it. I remapped it to some other button. A second. That's right. I mean, it depends. If it was last night, that was not the case. All right, hold on. Let me remap my select button here. Okay, so how do I do the rope? I don't know how to do the rope. Maybe I don't do that here and it's just a jump. Oh right, I can try things out. Haha! Oh fuck you. Okay. So yeah, that's the kind of like bullshit that I am not happy about. All right, so I want to recharge. Yeah, I'm gonna recharge Donatello. Like make a yellow jump, get hit by something, die, and then like come back and do the level again, remembering that there's an enemy there. That is like a completely bullshit move that I do not approve of. Like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm supposed to jump out, trigger those guys, and then go back? None of this makes sense. I can't, like, swing the rope anywhere. I use the rope. How do I use the rope? There's no, like, no rope button. Like, I press select and nothing happens. Up, down, left, right, something. Yeah, well, I don't actually have the wave anymore. I don't have the wave on anybody else, do I? No. I can't make that jump. Even if I don't get hit. Ah, alright. So, pull out Leo. Oh. Pull out Leo, walk right off the edge. How about that? Seems like a good plan. So yeah, in Bolivia, in La Paz, they had a ton of deaths from like drivers not paying attention to pedestrians. And so rather than in order to try and help limit the damage to pedestrians, they started hiring these people who dress up in zebra costumes. Maybe I just can't go this way. Like maybe this is a one-directional thing. Like I can't actually go very high here because I hit the ceiling of the map. So yeah, there's another building next to this, and I'm thinking that probably I need to actually just go. If I want to get to the other side of this, I just have to go to the other building. So, but yeah, so in La Paz, they have these zebras, who are people who dress up as zebras in order to like go out into traffic and protect the pedestrians. So when there's a pedestrian that needs to cross, this person in a zebra costume will like risk life and limb in order to go out into the street. So I know there shouldn't be a ceiling. I am not defending the ceiling. I am simply stating the world as it exists contains a ceiling in this spot. It is not my choice that there's a ceiling there, but here I can only jump up a little bit and then I hit an imaginary ceiling. So apparently what they do is they actually hire a lot of people who are like like people who were previously in jail, and so this is like a rehabilitatory profession. So they hire you to be like a crosswalk zebra, and it's, you know, a way of getting back in. I don't know how much it pays. I assume not well, but it's you know, it's a step that they do, you know, lets people give back to society who have previously been, you know, not exactly the most productive members of society, which I just think is a really cool idea. Can I get that from here? No. If I go, ugh. I want in. There we go. Oh, it is super. I mean, so I mean, it's super dangerous. Like in theory, in practice, I assume that they have a sense of like what the actual, you know, failure rate on this is, and you know. Okay, so this is the other side of that pit, which has nothing on it. So I don't know if I'm supposed to use the rope there or what, but this building was a giant waste. It got me half of a pizza, which I wouldn't have needed had I not come in here to get half of a pizza. So that's great. That's one of the things I don't like about, I mean, it's open world, I guess, so... oh, you would? I would love being in a zebra costume. I mean, I'm a giant dork, so what do I know? A sick angel was killed, and a queen ogre approaches. A queen ogre approaches. Alright, so where the heck am I? So I went to those two. So this is one of those cases where I think I would number these and I would take notes. That's what I would do. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that right now, but that's, get out of here. I don't know, is it like, I mean, you could take my freedom, but you'll never take my dignity. Did I go in that building? I feel like I did. Alright, so did we go, I feel like I went down here. I love colorful chat. Thank you very much, Leif. I appreciate it. Oh, I did not go down here. Or if I did, the things come back. Alright, so let's go this way. Thank you very much, Leif. I appreciate it. And the little talky voice appreciates you too. Thank you very much. I like...
The Ravenna throws money for colorful chat too much.
I like the dollar bills, y'all. I like the colors. I like all the people who give me the colors. I'm such an asshole. I'm sorry. Okay. So, I'm gonna run out of rockets. This is a problem. Alright, so let's change to Raphael, because I'm gonna get hit by these crushers. I don't think there's anything over here. This is where I came from? Yeah, that was stupid. Hello, Beast Life! Yeah, the colors make me feel special. Well, the colors and the ticker, right? The ticker also gets me. Like, this is why I don't think I made very many $5 fan funding donations, but I have definitely made a fair number of $5 super chat donations because, you know, you've got to. You got to. With that, with the ticker up there and having my name on it, yeah, no, it's gotta be. All right. But yeah, so after my stream on Saturday, I went across the street to the anarchist house and I crashed their party for a while. I mean, I was invited, so I guess I wasn't crashing, but I went to their party for a while and I wished the birthday girl a happy birthday. So, all right, so I have not been here. So we will hop out. I don't think I've been here. No. Oh. So yeah, major props to the team that worked on the new ticker and everything for Super Chat. I feel like it was very effective at exactly what they wanted it to do. Yes, you need 1,000 subs to do Super Chat. That's right. Which you really want anyway, because it only pays out after, you know, $100. Oh shit. I have not save stated in a while. Wait, what? Oh. So one, April's here like talking to me, and two, I guess I don't lose a turtle when I do that? So that's good to know. Turn that off. Come at me, fire leg! Nope, not you, fire legs. Yeah, I know an anarchist. I know some anarchists. So the ex-MIT professor who lives across the street has like created a 13-page propaganda piece about like how he doesn't believe in private property and everything else like that. And so he was gone through like complicated legal shenanigans in order to make his house not be able to ever become private property again. And so the people who live there live in a like semi-communistic, you know, living environment where they all kind of dedicate themselves to participating in the household activities, which I guess is not actually anarchist, but I don't fully understand it. Anyway, so yeah, the people across the street are in a house with a man that has a manifesto attached to it, and we call the house the anarchist house, even though in reality maybe it's more communist or something else like that. So I think it's probably making more than $12. If I was gonna guess how much money YouTube is making from Super Chat, I would have to guess more than $12. Yeah, no, you're right, Jose. I don't fully know the right terminology. I mostly just repeat what Mrs. CPG tells me to say, so. Yeah, I mean, and I think in the end, the amount of money that they're making from Super Chat, like, so with fan funding, right? Overall, for average donations that people made from fan funding, YouTube took a 10% cut. It's a 5% cut plus, 21 cents or something like that to cover expenses, and just like PayPal, that averaged out to around 10%. With Super Chat, they take 30%, so there's an extra 20%. But as I've pointed out, the way that you get the way that you get people to pay money for things, or to invest in software products, is that you make it so they make money from things, right? So if you look at a product like fan funding, where YouTube was literally just taking enough to pay, like, cover their credit card processing expenses, it's really hard to go to your boss and say, I would like to spend $1 million making this product better this year, because after we do that, we will make $0 more. Like, that's not really a sensible move for a business to make. There are people who can do that as a hobby, right? I run Livestream alerts as a hobby, and so I have invested, probably 100 to 200 hours, somewhere in between there, of my time in the website and making it better. That would normally be like a $100,000 project. And so, with the rates that I would charge at a commercial rate. So, with that, I've done it as a hobby, and it's okay. But I would obviously be able to do more in that vein if someone was paying me more, right? I would do that instead of other things, because it would be easier to motivate myself to do it. So, alright, I did it right that time. No, so Org Chaos, 30% from Super Chat is the revenue cut. So it's a flat 30%, no variation. Ah, it's a blue turtle. Oh God, what are you? Who are you? Get away from me. Oh, you scare me. Oh, you're going to make me dead. Oh, I didn't want to be dead. All right, let's not be dead. Yeah, and so, I mean, I think that I said this, during my birthday stream, right? I would rather you give 30% to YouTube and get your name to show up all colorful like in my chat than anything else. But I admit that I'm a weirdo, so. Google Play Store is also 30%. 30% is a pretty typical rate for, like, digital purchases. I think on other websites that allow you to purchase virtual goods to give to people, it's very similar. TwitchBits is the same, and other. Oh God, what's going on now? You're actually like a weird ninja shooting rockets at me. I don't understand how this works. So I got this rope and I never used it. Like, I went through all these buildings and I never used the rope. So what's up with that? Yes! But yeah, so, alright, I am in Area 4. Good job, me. I've never been here before. I have definitely, like, this is further than I have ever gotten in this game. Turns out the save states help. I want that pizza, but I want to kill all these enemies first. There we go. That's right. Clip off the screen, bad guys. Oh God. All right. That was a calculated choice. I did not think I was going to be able to avoid those guys, so I decided to jump onto the pizza, take the hit. For pizza's sake. Polar Plays, all these people have been mods for like 4 months. I think you just haven't noticed. Or you haven't been around much. In general, becoming a mod in my chat is not hard. 1, don't be obsessed with being a mod. 2, hang around for a while. Pretty simple. Why are these guys so freaking hard to kill? Why are you... What are you doing up there? I don't know what the Fuzzbot logo is. I have no... Well, so the foot soldiers are. Beyond that, I have no memory, knowledge, or recollection of any of these. But I will say this game was apparently based more on the comic books than the shows. So it's possible that that's why. I never read the comic books, so... Oh god. The underpasses are numbered. The target is number 18. Alright, Splinter. I appreciate the help. Oh. Now I'm gonna use the rope. Yes, okay. So I can't control the rope. The rope just controls me. I mean, I think that Men on Fire is a thing that I can imagine having happened in an episode. But I don't know that it did. It's a long rope. By the way, hello, Celso. You said hi earlier, and I was totally involved in something, and I forgot to say hi back. So, oh god, oh god. Yeah, we'll take it. I think that's Men at Work. I don't know if there was a Men on Fire as well. I think of the Girl on Fire, the Hunger Games, which was a very pretty. The movie for the Hunger Games is very pretty. I don't know about anything else about it. The books were okay. I read them all. Wow, you just like completely destroyed me. Weird machine shooting lasers. I have been thoroughly wrecked. That's awesome, Disguise. I was never much of a comic book person. I did have the Dark Phoenix comics from the like X-Men Dark Phoenix series, but that was it, and not a whole lot else. We did have a couple comic book stores in town, but yeah, it's no problem, Dylan. I honestly, I don't even notice like people who are or aren't mods for the most part anymore. So I'm just kind of like, whatever. Like, as I look around, there's relatively few people who are regulars here who I wouldn't feel comfortable modding. So. Nico, how's it going? Sorry that I messed you up on the date of my birthday stream. I moved it, which is why you were messed up. I had expected to do something actually on my birthday, which I sort of did because I started it the night before and then went through to my birthday, but I changed my mind on doing it on my birthday, which is probably a good idea given that I spent all of Saturday puking or otherwise suffering from my foolishness. Of course, had I done it on Sunday, I wouldn't have been nearly so foolish, and people wouldn't have laughed at me nearly so much. I do not actually remember the end of my stream, I found out. I remember playing Mega Man and not being able to beat Mega Man 3 and not being able to beat a single boss, but I did not remember that I actually just stopped trying and just went to just doing straight karaoke at the end. So that was something that was a little bit surprising to me when I went back this morning and realized that. Okay, you're dropping bombs. That's helpful. Okay. So 3. So I'm looking for 18 apparently. I mean, I could make a timeout command if people really want to. I'll be gone till November, I'll be gone till November. You tell my girl I'm gonna be gone till November. January, February, March, April, May. You see me crying, but girl, I can't stay. I'll be gone till November, I'll be gone till November. And give a kiss to my mother. When I come back, there'll be no need to cry. We'll have enough money to buy out July. That was Wyclef Jean, or Jean. I don't know how you pronounce his name. That guy, Wyclef. He was the one. Where am I now? Confused. I feel like I'm in a different spot than I was. Stop trying to drop bombs on me. Should I follow the arrows? Should I not follow the arrows? Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble here. So I've only got one continue left. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's how that works. This is gonna kill me, right? No. So I'm not really sure why I'm being quite so incautious. This feels a bit foolish of me, but what can you do? I'm just like exploratory mode. Ooh-ah. Oh, fuck. Right, Wyclef Jean. Jean. Wyclef Jean. Alright. Supposed to be going to 18. I've seen 6, and this is 8, so I feel like I'm still going in the right direction. Yeah, I think all the 90s only people get together. So since I last kind of had a normal talkie stream, we've seen some of the revelations of Vault 9, Vault 7, whatever that was. So we learned that your Samsung TVs are listening to you in a hack that is named after the Weeping Angels of Doctor Who. What's this? 10? 10's good. I like 10. Heading in the right direction. But yeah, I also do not put a lot of effort into avoiding copyright claims. I did remember that I was singing at the end of the night. I just did not remember how much I was singing until I got my 10 copyright claims today. So I'm not really sure why it took, 24 hours for me to get my claims, but... Oh, God! Alright. So I need to kill all of the... Oh, I need to go down the bottom to get there. Worth it? Feels worth it. Oh, I can't... How do I... Oh, there we go. Nope, not microwaves. That's a Donald Trump myth. God damn it. Yeah, they can have their ads pennies. I mean, like I said, I make money while the streams are live, and after the streams are live, I don't care. Yeah, why am I going through this? Like, I just used up an entire turtle's health attempting to get one turtle's worth of health. Like, that was the dumbest move I've made all night. All right, I did it. All right, so let's toss that. All right. Don't care about those guys. Do care about bombs. Do care about you. Oh, shoot! I don't have any more rope. I don't know what's gonna happen now. It looks good to me. I don't think Comcast was the fault there. I don't know if my stream cut out or something like that, but all seems like it should be good to me. A lot of poems for sexy. Sexy poems for mom. Sounds great, Mike. I love talking to you when you're naked. Okay. As long as we're blaming Comcast for things that are not like my stream is broken, then I'm happy. Because that's all I'm worried about. So the problem is, I don't think that there are there was more than 3 rope things here, wasn't there? Were there just 3? Like, because I feel like I'm gonna get to the far side of this, and then I'm gonna find out there's no more ropes, and I don't know where to go for another rope. But we'll find out. No, okay, this is the long one, so that's the last one. They're not that evil of, like, making it unbeatable if you die at all. That's good. I was just a little bit worried, because this game and design do not seem to be words that go together really well. I hate it when Comcast does that. I just want some goddamn pork. Alright, what's that? Yeah, I mean, running big ISPs is just hard. There's so many things that can go wrong technically, like software-wise. You know, you can be trying to plug in a new cable and crimp something and not realize it until the next day. Like, there's just so much that can go wrong. So, as much as I give Comcast shit, it's mostly, like, an understanding that, yes, you have a hard job, but I still pay you for it, so it is still your job, and you need to do it. Oh, God. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that can happen if you've got a misseated, if you got misseated optics in your transceiver, like, that's totally plausible. I've seen that before. When I was actually, so I've got the story up on my channel about, like, the time when I learned about what eye safety mode is on a cable, and the reason was because the uplink was busted and the downlink wasn't. So, like, packets were able to come in, but not able to go out. Something along those lines. I don't remember which direction it was, but one direction was busted and the other one wasn't. And so it turns out that most like transceivers are really just like two different pairs of optics that are two different, you know, fiber optic cables, and they can both all right, I don't need to go that way, I guess. One, no. See, this one is like making motions like I want to go that way, but I'll go this way. Ah! Magnet pulled me. I mean, I don't know what exactly I expected the giant magnet to do, but it clearly wasn't that. Alright. Alright, so that was 5. If I go through 5, where does it take me? Does it take me like a shortcut? 7. So if you do not know, Stingray Gaming has actually been doing a series on games that you can buy on the Virtual Console because, unlike some people like me, he actually believes in paying real money for his games, whereas I look at this as I bought this game in the past and I'm not buying it again, god damn it. And so he's got a series called Virtual Collector. He's got 2 titles up so far, giving some information about games that he has tried out and liked, and so you can check that out for suggestions on Virtual Console titles that you might want to take a look at. So far, he's got information up there on Yoshi and Castlevania 2, both games that I probably have played here before. Yoshi I played during one of my puzzle nights, and Castlevania 2 was obviously a full stream. I did not like Castlevania 2, but Stingray is a big fan, and he liked it better than any other NES Castlevania, he said. So there is that. And his videos even have closed captions, or at least the most recent one does, so there's that. By the way, Nico, another improvement to closed captions automatic closed captions just went out this week. So for new videos uploaded just this week, or starting last week, I guess, you will actually see improvements. God damn it. Alright, so I'm going to end up using my save state that I saved right before the continue. Or I guess I have one I tossed down a little bit later, but it's alright. Favorite game is Iron Sword, huh? Oh, I don't see... Yeah, I don't want to be in here. I want to get out of here. Get me out. Oh, I was gonna go over my head. I do not want to play Destiny. That is not my jam. Alright, so this is useless. Alright. So I guess I know now that going that way is useless. Because there's no way to get anywhere from there. So we'll have to go down this kind of runway thing and see where we get, I guess. I have a feeling that manhole is going to take me where I want to go. 'Cause I don't think, oh, there's one here too. 13. Hey, a turtle! I mean, it's Leonardo instead of Donatello, I think. Alright, I'll take it. Definitely with the gumball eyes. Yeah, from the good humor bars. Oh god, damn it. Leave me alone. Alright. I'm not sure why that magnet didn't hurt me. Well, that did not go well. Dennis, was it, oh man. What do they call that place? There's a place like that in Nashua. Something like, oh man, I don't know. Oh, Grand Buffet. The Grand Buffet, where you can go and get any type of cuisine, so long as the cuisine you're looking for is not tasty. God damn it. I feel like this has got to be the way to go. Also, man, the flicker. Crazy. Too many enemies on the screen, buddy. Gotta put some game design into this. Like, how did you think this was a good idea? So yeah, your Samsung TV is listening to you. What else do we have going on? We've got, alright, so let's go back to here. We've got, why are so many tech companies valued at over $1 billion without making a dime in profit? Because investors are dumb, is going to be my answer on that. When doing my tax bracket, taxes, I learned that tax brackets don't work the way that I usually think of them as doing, which is just something I'd never paid attention to before. If you're in the 39% tax bracket, you only pay 39% on the amount that puts you into the 39% tax bracket. So if you make $1 over that tax bracket amount, your like net tax payment thing is still like much below 39%. In fact, if you are just across the 39.6% line in US taxes, you only pay 28% because all the numbers below that just add up that way. So, learn something new every day. Sushi Con. Well, there you go. Alright, so I didn't really like that way, so we'll go this way instead. Right, I can just walk across one spot gap. Yeah, It's exactly. So you never want to have big jumps in your tax code, because then people will do lots of tricks to be to pay $1 less. You don't want to have the amount of money that you pay change drastically. So it totally makes sense, and I even realized it. But it's when people sometimes. So I was actually having a conversation with an ex-coworker at one point, and he was like, "Well, the marginal tax rate is maximum marginal tax rate is XYZ in LA County or something like that." And I was like, okay, so what's your math on that? It's like 70% or something. And it was like, okay, well, what's your math on that? He's like, well, if you add up 39.6% plus the local tax rate plus the state tax rate, those numbers all add up. And I'm like, okay, yes, but in order to get to 39.6 percent on federal income tax, you have to be making $110 million in income. And yes, if you're making $110 million in income, I will grant you that it is likely that you are being taxed somewhat heavily if you live in this county and you can't figure out how to manage your money any better than that. So it's a totally reasonable thing to do, but I just never realized it. And so when people talk about these kind of marginal tax rates and other things like that, I just had never taken that into account before. So I will say one thing for Leo: his weapon is less powerful. Like Michelangelo, although Michelangelo seems like it's just as not powerful, so I don't know. I feel like there's really a weapon balance, cost here. It really seems to me like the turtles should be a little bit more even, having them be so kind of different between them. So when you lose one turtle, you kind of just are like, well, fuck it, I can just give up and die now. It's just like supporting the emo teenager that is a Ninja Turtle. But yeah. Oh, god damn it. I'm so bad at this game. Hey, Nick, how's it going? But yeah, so I have no idea why the programmers for this game decided to include 4 enemies on the screen at a time in a scene that also had fire. I don't know if that's a thing where it worked differently in their development environment than it works on the actual console. I don't know if that's something that they had to change something for a US version or whatever else like that. Yeah, that's basically it, Ken. I mean, in this case, it was I'm going back to my save state, but same idea. I lost Donatello, now I'm killing them all. I always forget, I'm a big watcher of streams by listening to streams, and I really enjoy when people kind of read out or give a sense of the comment they're responding to, but I never do that because, of course, I'm reading what you're saying, so of course everybody's reading what you're saying, which is a silly idea, but it is how my brain works, and so that was stupid. That was also the wrong save state. Let's get good, and by get good I mean cheat better. We're not gonna have no more taking and dying 17 times in order to make progress. Oops, missed the thing. That's nice, Dennis. Cheat more gooder. That's right. That is my plan. Cheat more gooder. 20 Canadian dollars is I mean, that's at least 2 US dollars, right? I feel like that's how that works. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. For Super Chat, the 30% cut, I think, so one thing that is clear to me is that I think most people don't realize that for $1 tips on PayPal, there's also effectively a 30% cut. You can offer to pay that, and I kind of wish that YouTube had taken that option, but I think there's technical reasons why that wasn't appropriate. If I make a $1 tip via Streamlabs and don't choose to pay the fee, then I'm still 30% of my tip is not going to the creator. So, it's definitely, a reasonable complaint that the transparency isn't there, but I think that, among my audience, whatever. And I've found that among some other creators, they're like, no, like in the same way that not every dime of the ads comes to me, the same is true about Super Chat, and that's fine. I mean, YouTube has to make a living too. Yes, we got the Beta Lich. I was just off, like I said, Nick, we're already much farther than I ever got in this game. So, okay, first of all, let's switch to a different turtle. Oh, god damn it. Oh my god, seriously? Okay, well, my cheating skills have failed. I forgot to save state after I left the building, and I'm just a terrible human being. So let's try this again with less suckage. Wow, are they really like $100 Canadian? That sucks. Yeah, hopefully, Ken. I mean, we've got to earn our keep on that, right? Like, I totally admit that if Super Chat never, you know, gets another feature or never rolls out further or, you know, does anything else like that, you know, not to more like less than 1,000 subs, because I do actually think that's a restriction that is reasonable for a lot of reasons, but instead to, you know, more features or more whiz bangs or other things like that, then I think it would be a little bit disappointing. You know, I hope that money gets reinvested in making Super Chat a better platform. You know, for example, I could imagine that having like built-in alerting would be awesome, or features around like being able to do like animated GIFs or something else like that. You know, things that'll make it better, or just like more like, especially for people who do like Cameo, like mobile live streaming, like having some mobile live streaming features. Like, these are all things that I hope that get done as part of that, and if they don't, I think it'd be a little bit disappointing to have like a 30% cut and not have any improvements in the platform that's taking that 30% cut. But I mean, it's part of like your YouTube is offering an advertising space for people, and I think that that's a cool thing. So $80, god damn. Yeah, so, Org, I think that in general, like, you know, platforms driven by donations are a cool thing for hobby projects, but for real life, I'd rather have something more serious than that. You know, like, there's still like a fair bit to be said for charities, right? So the Wikimedia Foundation is a charity and is run as a charity, and that's the way that they do it. But I think that we should generally avoid, you know, expecting that our platforms will be run as charities. I feel like that's an important, you know, thing to remember, is that we want our businesses to be financially successful without us having to throw more money at them outside the platform. That we want them to choose successful business models. We want them to do other things like that, or at least I do. I mean, maybe other people don't. But I want to see that, because I want to see these platforms succeed on the model that they've chosen, because otherwise, if I feel like if I have to throw more money at it later, there's a little bit of a bait and switch feel to that I don't feel super comfortable with. So, hello, Matus. But yeah, having platforms that are run by donations is a great thing for hobby projects, and something that I do my best and wish to avoid for more serious endeavors. Alright, let's toss this. I think robot puppies that have butts that serve as 3D printers seems like an excellent plan. I don't know about the implementation details of that. Feels a little bit difficult to me, but I'm totally down. I will invest. Oh. He tried to bomb me and was almost successful. Alright, let's pull out Raphael, because, you know, he's just a meat shield. Oh. Well, that was less painful than I expected it to be. Alright, so I want to go there. And I have no other way to get there, so I guess that this is going to be my route. Hope for the best. Okay. Ah. Yes, moderators, please subscribe to CPG. God damn it. I don't know what a lichatini is. It sounds like some kind of martini with leeches in it, which I'm assuming is not right. You took Lydia out for poutine? How did she like it? Was it her favorite? Alright, this is 12, so 12 seems bad. 15 seems good. Ow! That was stupid of me. 12, I think, had some pizza in it, so, but it seemed like it was going to be hard to get to. 7. So there is a audio library function. The audio library function, not audio library, the music policies portion of the what used to be the audio library will give you the current policies for a bunch of songs, so you can search for songs in the library and see what they are. The problem with that is that those policies can change at any time. So when music gets bought or sold, oftentimes those policies will change. And even if that is the current policy, it does not mean it will be the policy of any, you know, other owner or even the current owner. They can still choose to, you know, issue a copyright strike if they want to. So it's one of the risks you take anytime you use someone else's content, is that, you know, they may choose to change how you can interact with it, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you can generally feel pretty safe with the, you know, taking advantage of the music policies list, because if it's in there and it's not blocked currently, the chances it will be are low but not zero. The only way to be completely safe, of course, would be to obtain a license for all content that you use, or only use content that is, you know, not copyright someone else. But I do understand that there are people who feel differently than that, so. Well, it's not just the money, it's also like the reach and everything else like that, so. Lychees are a fruit with a delicate flavor from East Asia. Huh. Yeah, writing your own music, I mean, that's the same idea as like having your own, you know, not using someone else's copyrighted content, right? So that's the ideal. Welcome to the sponsor. Welcome to the sponsor squad. Or Tubby got wrecked. You can even put it up on iTunes and, you know, make some passive income that way. Oh god! Why are there spikes everywhere? Jeez Louise. I got the music in me. Oh wait, that's the magic. Alright. Where are you shooting thing? Alright. Boom shakalak. Yeah. Do that with this. Alright, so I can walk directly across 1 square hops. There we go. Never eat the choir. Yeah, so that was one of the conversations I had at the anarchist house was not about eating the choir, but was instead about eating the rich. So they were discussing whether it made sense to actually eat the rich, and I pointed out that it only made sense to eat the rich if you could set up a wealth redistribution scheme that would allow you to take their wealth by eating them, because realistically, even eating Bill Gates is just not going to do a whole lot for you. Instead, you need to have a plan to redistribute Bill Gates' wealth. Oh god, giant mouser. I don't like you. I don't like you at all. I don't like you. I don't like you at all. Yeah, it does that. Boom shakalak. That's right. I destroyed you, giant mouser. Whew. Go to the enemy base by blimp. You have my support. Well, that's the other thing. You're right, Jose, right? Like, Bill Gates probably almost certainly does more good with being alive than he would even if you redistributed all of his wealth. So he like, one, does a lot of good via the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Two, he does a lot for actually teaching other rich people how to be good rich people. So how to, like, you know, share your wealth or invest it or, like, actually do good with it, which I think is an awesome, you know, thing that he does. And, excuse me, sorry about that. So to take him away from this world is almost certainly a net harm, despite his relatively, even if you could redistribute his relatively enormous wealth. But that was skill. That's right. I skilled my way right through that. Yes. I told people that, but they don't want to. They're like, no, I am a fan of YTG forever, and even if it's broken, I'm still gonna be here, being the way I am. Which, I appreciate the love. You know, people who are dedicated to their craft, even when we can't deliver the same. Step 1, become rich. I don't know, like, all of the enemies in this game, I mean, to be fair, Krang is, like, you know, not exactly the most, I mean, he's a pretty weird enemy to begin with, but, oh, wait, okay. Krang, something like that. I don't remember his name. Ooh. Okay, well, that was not super effective. But that's okay. I agree that gaming has better things, but if you're a big chatter, I feel like having to resend every, you know, 10th message gets a little bit old. I don't know, maybe just me. Step 1. We can have lots of fun. Step 2. There's so much we can do. Step 3. It's just you and me. Step 4. Don't you know that I'll give you more? Step 5. Don't you know that your time has arrived? He can't get super chat. He doesn't have 1,000 subs. I'm working on it. Alright, so this is where foot soldiers live? I'm confused. This seems to be a very ineffective place to go. I appear to be at the end of a giant dead end. Awesome. But yes, it was very nice to, when I called my mother for my birthday last night, she was complaining about, she's apparently got 2 harder, like, deaf students in her class, deaf, hearing impaired, I'm not sure exactly, like, what extent, but, and she said that they were trying to use YouTube with auto captions, and she was like, they were really bad. And I'm like, yeah, like, have you not noticed this before? They were really bad for a really long time. Like, it's nice that YouTube has finally made meaningful progress on this, but it was embarrassing for a long time. You know, the automatic captions on YouTube have been a joke. I still want to play. So there's actually. So I'm actually sending caption data to YouTube right now. Unfortunately, it's not showing it to you, but there's an option in OBS now to do automatic captions from your from Microsoft speech recognition. Unfortunately, it's really terrible. In addition to being like as bad as YouTube's automatic captions were a year ago, it's also like 30 seconds delayed. It's better if I would ever shut up, but we know that I don't ever shut up, so the speech recognition just like never has a chance to catch up, and so the captions just live 30 seconds delayed all the time. So if you look at my last couple live videos ever since Friday, you'll actually see that they have closed captions on them, even though they're hours long, and you know, they're in an undefined language for some reason, and like there's lots of bugs about it, but I do have them there, and unfortunately they're just really, really bad. Oh, so I have to go in these 4 different locations to find... Is this the place I just was? I feel like this is where I just was. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing what? Why am I playing this game? Because I've never beat it. Well, so YouTube doesn't do automatic captions for long videos, right? So for my live streams, there is no automatic captions available. I look forward to when YouTube does add automatic captions to live streams, but at the moment they don't exist. And so I am doing this because now in theory what I should do is actually set up a live event, and if I do that, there's an option to turn on captions, and then I could actually have captions during the stream. They would still be just as terrible, but again, you know, there's a question of whether they'd be better than nothing. I'm having a hard time deciding. The other thing, though, I want to do is that Microsoft offers an opportunity to train your voice model, and I want to actually do some testing where I train it. So I'm going to read some text into an audio file, run it through the Microsoft speech recognition software, and then do it again after I train it and see how much it improves. And my hope is it's going to improve somewhat meaningfully because according to a couple of the speech engineer people in my life, this is the biggest thing that makes a difference. So the way that you know, speech technology works is by kind of mapping phonemes in words to phonemes in text and working that way. And if I can actually train it, then there's a good chance that I will be able to, you know, improve the quality of it to the point where it might be useful. So. I mean, I think that if a human can't do it, I think the expectation that a computer can do it is pretty unfair. So I try to set my expectations appropriately. I have never been able to understand Ozzy Osbourne to save my life, and I'm not going to ask a computer to do that for me. So I don't know if there is I don't know what the limit is, but I know it's less than 4 hours. Just in practice, because I never get automatic captions on my live streams. Okay. That's nice. Oh, okay, my ears have cooled off. Put these back on. But yeah, I want to do things like, I want to read like an article from the New York Times and you know, read a children's book or something like that and see what I can get out of the captions. Then I want to train it, and then I want to compare both of those to how YouTube's automatic captions work. So compare like default Microsoft captions, corrected, you know, trained Microsoft captions, and compare it to YouTube's automatic captions on videos. So, hey, M0, how's it going? Yes, or chaos. I've seen that. I just want that pizza. I hit it with my stick. Is that not enough? Can't my stick pick up pizza? Should be able to. Oh, well, that was nice. There's gonna be some bad guys on my way back, but not nearly as many. Yeah, Donatello can have that. But yes. So yeah, that's a toy that I want to play with. I want to kind of see how that looks and see how that works. You know, one of the things that makes YouTube interesting, of course, is that you know, YouTube is an untrained voice model is apparently like what the term of whatever is, and the state of the art in untrained voice models is much less advanced than I think YouTube's I think that YouTube is competitive with the best untrained voice models on their automatic captions now. So, all right. How do I get in here? Go in here. Oh. Take care, Soy Bomb. I appreciate it. I'm doing pretty well so far. I feel like, you know, I'm getting close to the end here, maybe. I am not too bad. I had a kind of shitty Sunday because I spent all my time. I spent Saturday night drinking the equivalent of 8 beers, which, given I only weigh 145 pounds, was not the way that you keep yourself nice and squeaky, you know, clean in the morning or anything else like that. So, but I do feel like I must be going, like, there must be a trick to this. I think, Proto Sam, you said that the Technodrome's just like in one of 4 random spots, but is that just in the sewers and these other buildings are just completely useless to me? Or is it like it can be in here too? Because I saw that weird like foot place in one of these, but I haven't seen those in these buildings, so there's nothing down there except for boomerangs. Alright, can't do that. But yeah, so one of the videos that I was watching recently, which was very impressive to me, is John Green or Hank Green, the Vlogbrothers, did a piece on the Trump's new budget, and I was just watching that, and I wasn't even paying attention to the content of it. I was just like, holy crap, these closed captions are the best thing I've ever seen. You know, as Mark pointed out, there's still kind of 2 very easily correctable errors to a human that are included early on in the you know, bit, but compared to what the expectation is for automatic captions on YouTube, it's just so much better. And even the words that are wrong, it's kind of like, well, I still got enough of the gist. It's not like a completely random word that gets tossed in there. So, what do I do? One of these. Got it. Okay, so let's go to another sewer then. I've got all my turtles now. So I feel like I did this sewer, because that was the first one I went to. There's only 3 sewers, I think. Oh, I'll try this one. It is actually only 8 minutes until the CP... No, we did this one. Oh, that sucks, Org. Alright, so yeah, so we got one there, which I'm pretty sure I did. And then we'll go down to this other sewer, which I'm pretty sure I didn't do. Pretty sure that's how it works. Let's try that. So totally, I think that it's like, it's an evolving process, right? So it is absolutely the case that having the typical Middle American accent right now is absolutely a help. And I think that the best thing that I can say on that is that long term, you know, what YouTube needs more of is training data in order to do better. The way to get more training data is to produce, you know, better-ish automatic captions so that people are able to actually correct them and give YouTube more training data. And so long as we, you know, continue to, you know, take into account what people have done and learn from it, I think that it's going to be an improvement in the short term. It's going to mean that you're going to be better off when you're taking the kind of typical like SciShow and everything else like that and working from it. It was still impressive to me that I could just consume that, though. That I didn't have to turn on the audio and kind of listen for the miscued words. That I could just watch this and not turn on the audio was a surprise to me. And it's not to say that by any means we're done, because realistically, like, there's plenty of measurement that shows we've got a long way to go, but it's getting closer to state of the art. And this is where, like, the kind of individual training that a real natural language processing solution will get you is a big difference, because when you have that, it means that you're not just, what the average has trained to, but instead you are at, whatever amount of time you have put into training that work is. And I think that's a very major difference in how effective speech recognition technology can be for you, and whether YouTube can match that without the need for speaker-specific models, I think is a completely reasonable question. Or maybe whether they can do speaker-specific models at some point, that, when I upload a video, you're going to use my speech model from my previously corrected captions, so. That is kind of crazy, Proto-Sam. But yeah, so M0, scheduled twice or doing the exact same time, or stream every day but different times of the day. So I would say it's a trade-off, right? So what you're gaining by streaming the same time every day is ease of, like, having your audience be able to find you. And what you're losing is that you're going to be limited to the same, like, audience every time, right? So if you are streaming on Sundays at, or if you're streaming at 7 p.m. Eastern time, that means that you can't really pick up the East Asian crowd because they're asleep. If you're streaming at 10 a.m. every day, then that's hard, because all you get is people who can, like, watch while they're working, and kids who are in school won't be able to watch you. So mixing that up on different days, I think, can offer something, but the trade-off there is that you lose out on consistency, and people don't know exactly when you stream. And so this is why I do 9:15 both Mondays and Fridays, is because I think that 9:15, both by virtue of being a slightly off-kilter time, as well as being my time for both nights of the week, is easier for people to remember, and I'm going to get more value out of that than I would by streaming at, like, 3 p.m. on a Saturday or something else like that, which was one of the other options I thought about. So, to the nines, it's good to see you. James Baker, I'm expecting that within the next 6 months or so, but I don't know. Okay, so this is bad, right? This means I'm in the wrong spot. Pretty sure that's what that means. I can't go this way? Yeah. Oh. But yeah, it's funny that, so I assume that the way that they choose the randomness is basically they probably did a frame input at the beginning. So they basically choose a seed based on when you start the game, based on exactly how many frames have gone by. And that's why they can tell from the sound. It's probably because the sound is just a slightly different because of the frame delays, exactly when you hit the start button, because you're going to be limited based on the cycles that the console has available. And so by listening to the title sound, it's probably slightly changes the sound processing such that you can hear that, and then you know what the random seed is, and once you know what the random seed is, then you can figure that out. That would be my guess. Can I cross these railroad tracks? I think I can. That's just a guess, but that would be kind of like, if you were going to ask me how can it be that random numbers would affect the sound, that would be my guess, because of course the NES didn't have a random number generator, so everyone just kind of had to hack their own. I passed the dam before you even got here, Oni. I said that when you got here and commented on the dam. I was already done. Alright. So I'm gonna go back here. Yeah, I was past the damn 15 minutes in, man. Okay, but we're gonna take a break from this for now, and we are going to hop into our CPG rant of the evening. I played before when I was a kid. I have not played in many, many moons. Right. I was gonna pick a CPG rant topic. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, that looks good. I'm here. You're here. Good to see you. Let me make sure this is doing the right thing here. Yeah. All right. All is well. I am the Chris who plays games. 1, 2, 3. I'm the Chris who plays games, and this is your CPG rant of the evening. Even people who seem to be annoying little shits in your community can sometimes grow to be valuable and important members of your community given the chance to grow. I know this because I was one of those little shits. When I was 18 years old, I started volunteering for LiveJournal support. I started volunteering to help people answer questions in that community. And when I did so, I was a snotty little 18-year-old. I was emo, I was whiny, I was terrible in so many ways. And looking back at that, I'm like, oh my god, how did anyone put up with me? However, in reviewing some of the statistics about my time within LiveJournal support with other members of the LiveJournal support community yesterday, I found out that I had answered more than 350 questions of users, complex technical questions. In addition to that, I had written more than 900 comments on, various questions that they had, trying to help out and give technical information that other people could turn into better answers for them. In so doing, I am now the 143rd ranked person on the LiveJournal support all-time high scores list for their, fun little gamification of giving support to users, despite the fact that I haven't done anything with it in more than a decade. And while I certainly was not the most prolific or the person with the most points or anything else like that, I was someone who was able to contribute to that community. I was able to do that not only with volunteer support, where I was able to do these, outreach and understanding and helping with technical issues and everything else like that, but also later with development. So LiveJournal is where I cut my teeth on open source development. I helped write some of the code that allowed me to break the semantic web in 2004. I helped write some of the code that allowed us to do a bunch of other things, and also was one of the few people who understood the more advanced style system that LiveJournal used and was able to help teach others. However, if someone like me had walked into a community that I maintained, my first reaction would be to tell those shit kids to get the fuck out. Because that's really what it was. When I look at the attitude that I took, when I look at the attitude that I was, taking, I was such an annoying little shit. Like, I could not respect people's boundaries. I could not, listen. I could not take criticism. I could not do all these things. And basically, if you go through my CPG rants and take every single one of them and take the most negative example that you can take of someone doing that, whether that's someone being whiny or someone trying to be super opportunistic to the point of pissing everyone else off, or someone not respecting boundaries, or someone not being able to pay attention, or someone, feeling really crappy because his point wasn't as high as someone else's points. I did all those things. Like, I speak from true experience here that I know how bad someone in your community like that can be, because it was me. I was that guy. And so it's a little bit hard for me, because sometimes I'm like, oh my god, you shit kid. Like, get out of here. Like, I'm so tired of your crap. Like, you're always doing the same things. You can't ever listen, whatever. And there's absolutely a line, like, being a toxic member of the community who is actually damaging or harmful to other members of the community, who's insulting, other things like that, is a very different line. And you have to draw the line and kick those people out of your communities, because otherwise they will just stay in your communities and they will fester and just not be good for you. But if they're just a little bit off, if they're just someone who needs a little bit of encouragement, if there's just someone who you're kind of like, ugh, again, it is actually possible to rehabilitate those people. Speaking myself as a somewhat rehabilitated member of a community someone who was able to turn around all of that emo energy into answering, hundreds of questions and supporting a community of people who were able to answer hundreds more in a support community or do development or other things like that, which has now led into some of the other open source projects that I've done, like OpenLayers and everything else like that. I basically became a citizen of the internet because some people decided to not just kick me out of a community and attempt to support me when I was going through hard things, attempted to, give me guidance, attempted to allow me to learn. And even when they ignored me and I whined at them about ignoring me and I told them how terrible they were for ignoring me, they didn't kick me out. They just continued to ignore me, went about their business, and the next time I asked for, something else, they would consider it and give me whatever due level support there was. And again, I look back and there's so much crap that I said to the people who ran LiveJournal support and development and everything else like that, talking about how I knew best and I was so much better. And I just look back at that and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how you didn't strangle me. So I think that's my piece of advice is like, sometimes you're going to look at people and be like, oh my God, I want to strangle you. And that's okay. Shouldn't necessarily tell them that. Instead, you should redirect that effort into more helpful ways, whether you do it yourself or other people do it, whether you do it via writing better documentation or a better getting started guide. This is one of the things that I think I have seen. There's a project called OpenHatch, and OpenHatch was a website that was designed to get developers started developing in open source projects, and it would reach out to all these projects that had like simple bugs for you to get started with, and setting up a getting started guide for people to download your software and get hacking on it right away, or to get people into that fold, is such an important thing to allow people to grow and be like better. So reaching out, not necessarily directly, not anything else like that, but reaching out and allowing other people to connect with you and connect to your code and your project and share in some way or another is good. When you have volunteers who want to help you, you shouldn't turn them away. Even if you don't really want their help, you should try and redirect doing whatever that is they want to do. You should try and redirect them into a more helpful direction. You should try and connect them to some way that they can actually give you some of the benefit and help that you want. So yeah, there's a lot of shit kids in the world. I was one of them. But even a shit kid can be rehabilitated. Keep that in mind, see what you can do, and see if you can integrate them into your community to be more helpful. Especially if they're not really toxic, they're just annoying. Because annoying is a thing that a lot of people grow out of. Of course, it's also a thing that people like myself never do. I'm the Chris who plays games. This is a hat spin for you. Oh, that did not spin well. We're going to spin that hat again. There we go. So this has been your CPG rant of the evening. Thank you very much for watching. And check out some of the other CPG rants on the channel if you're interested. Thank you very much and have a great All right. So yeah, the CPG rant, of course, is in this case about how to effectively integrate volunteers and supporters and everything else like that into these things. I mean, Stingray, I think that you not only can be, you have been. And so I think that, not that you're necessarily a shit kid, but I think that, you have really demonstrated, in my opinion, an ability to like take constructive criticism in a meaningful way when looking at YouTube video creation and other things like that. So I think that that's a thing. I think that that's really cool. I mean, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and even when they're as old as me. I mean, like, did I ever think? I swear to God, when YouTube gaming started, I talked so much shit about it. Like, why the hell would anyone just watch people play games? Like, what is up with this? This is the stupidest thing ever. Like, it's dumb. Like, why would anybody watch this? And I just, like, I poked my head in, not because I expected to, like, enjoy gaming content on YouTube, but because I wanted to know what was broken about the website so I could go and yell at people that I worked with. That is why I'm on YouTube Gaming, is because I joined so I could just listen to first reactions, talk to people in chat, whatever. And as a result, I made this connection with people, and since then I have become a stalwart defender of alternative forms of enjoyment. So like esports was just such a weird idea to me for such a long time. And after I started like hanging out on YouTube Gaming, I'm like, oh no, this makes sense. Like I can understand this. You've got, it's not really any different from other sports, you can find sports in general weird, but like esports isn't especially weird. And so like I have talked that up, I've talked that out to other people, so and so in doing so, I've moved from someone who would just constantly talk crap. Now, admittedly, part of my frustration was from the constant kind of like, oh my gosh, I got a copyright claim, video game stuff, and knowing that video games have weird copyright stuff that I don't understand, right? So for a long time, I just had this aversion, like because I worked at YouTube and I don't have the ability to do a lot of commentary on, copyright situations. It was always kind of weird for me to, oh crap. Oh yeah, right. I'm so not doing that. Where did I save that at? Yeah, so esports has never been weirder to me than real sports. It's basically exactly like, and well, it was for me for a long time, right? Because I didn't understand what esports was like. I did not understand that this is just like a sportscaster. It's just like anything else. All right, hold on. I loaded the wrong save state here. Let's do 2310. There we go. Use careful timing and teamwork to win. Oh, that was not very careful timing. So yeah, for a long time I did not have any understanding of what it was all about. I'd never really paid attention to it. I'd never gotten into it. I had this whole kind of negative opinion of like gaming content on YouTube because it was infested with this kind of sense of ownership of and copyright issues and everything else like that. And so I just avoided it, and I avoided it for a long time. And it was not until YouTube Gaming was launched and I felt the need to get involved from a minor support perspective and figure out what we'd screwed up, in the same way that I read Twitter and Reddit every time we launch a new feature, that I realized that, oh, this is just another way. It's an IRC chat room that happens to have a video game playing in the background. That before that I had never realized. So, but yeah, so the reason I am, of course, thinking of live journal support is because my there's been this past weekend there was a Facebook group that was set up, and so a bunch of people kind of reliving some of their old memories in this vein. So. I mean, well, was that, what's his face? Starts with a G, the kid is, God, what's his name? I'm pretty sure I know the streamer you're talking about, and, so here's a horoscope for everybody. If you ever get a copyright strike or claim or anything like that you want to deal with, Quizzle, yes. So do not delete the video. Do not delete the video. If you delete videos, once they're deleted, nobody can see them to retract claims or do anything else. So that's a bad thing to do. If you want to fight a strike, or even if you don't, just leave it there. Deleting it does you no good and can only do you harm. Never ever delete a video that has a copyright strike or claim against it. Yeah, so, I mean, it makes sense now that I realize what it is. Thank you very much, Dick Butt. How's it going? So So I realized that not everybody realizes don't delete your videos if they have copyright strikes against them. It's not exactly intuitive, but if you can follow that one weird trick, you will be much better off. And I think it's one that a lot of people miss out on. So, god damn it, this is stupid. But yes, I'm now 33 years old. I'm a semi-prime for the first time in a while. I was a prime 2 years ago. I was a power of 2 last year, and now I'm a semi-prime. So yeah, I just had never really thought about it that way. I'd never really thought, I thought it was just like, I guess I never really thought, like, I never really realized how big of a component the social component is with gaming stuff, and I was like, why would you just want to watch somebody play a game? And now, like, I'm realized that it's not about the game. It's about the community. It's about the social aspects. It's about other things like that. And so in that sense, it's a different thing than my expectation was in that dimension. And that's really what made it clear to me, like, what the difference was. So I just didn't realize that at the time. And as I've hung out here, I've realized it and come to, you know, obviously make friends and make some success for myself, minorly at least. Okay. Oh, what? What did I hit? The fact that my Donatello has so little health. No, Mark! You think that might be a good idea, wouldn't it? Yeah, how about that? Bugs are open. Say I'm not entirely pleased with that situation. I had a long conversation with somebody at one point where they were like, well, we do as much as we can to prevent this. And I'm like looking through, I'm like, we say it nowhere in our help center. We say it like nowhere in, you know, nowhere in the UI. What do you mean we're doing everything we can? You know, like there's a lot more we could be doing here. Oh yeah, I mean the kids also have a different thing, so. I don't even think it says it buried in the help. Like it does say like deleting your video won't clear the claim, like in the claim email, in the strike email maybe or something like that. But I mean Quizzle's situation, to be clear, was a crappy one, and I am aware of it. And because of his situation, I filed 4 different bugs. So that's I agree it's bad. But it was an unusual situation in a number of ways, and I think that in part just on Square. You know, they said you can do this, and then issued a strike to him for doing it. And they have every you know right to issue strikes to whoever they want for using their content. But the fact that they came to an agreement with him and then violated that agreement is a pretty, what the hell? I like must be hitting something I'm not supposed to hit. Yeah, so like deleting a video won't release the claims is something that we say, but we don't say don't delete the video, which is, I think, a stronger language that we should be using everywhere. I mean, the problem is that like once it's deleted, like there's nothing for people to review. There's nothing for anything else like that. It's like the biggest advice they give at VidCon. Is if you get a strike, don't delete the video, and the fact that it's so hidden in YouTube, like we honestly, there's no reason for it. We hate it, and we've just like done nothing to kind of prevent the wrong behavior, which is insane. Like, you need to incentivize the behavior, or either disincentivize the behavior you don't want, or incentivize the behavior you want. You can't do neither of those things and expect it to do what you want. But yeah, so one of the things I've learned, so the live channel support folks have actually rescued the quotes database from the IRC server that we were all on in 2003, and one of the things that I learned from that is that, oh my gosh, CPG was a hornball in 2003. there are a lot of quotes that were very, you know, you think I'm overly sexual now, man, oh man. So we could flip through. I think I'm gonna beat this. I know. Oh wait, this is the final battle. That was the final battle. No, I don't want this to be the final battle. Oh no. Oh, crap. I was not paying attention. Oh Jesus. I mean, I guess Leonardo fights next because. Okay, the difficulty difference between those enemies is pretty, unfortunate. I think this is my last continue too, right? Fuck. Okay, so I've got to get through here, like, perfectly, because I actually need to go on and fight after this, and I can't, like, there's no pizza yet. So this is gonna be a real pain in the balls. I got no continues. I got like nothing. I might be able to like toss in a Game Genie code or something, but So the next level is the Technodrome. Like, I thought this was the Technodrome, but it's not. But yeah, so one, I would hit on anyone, anytime. Okay. I'll have to see if I can dig up a Game Genie code that's gonna give me what I want. I don't know. I don't know what is actually out there. So I will take a break in a second, and I guess probably look that up. Oh, fuck. Alright. So, in the meantime, you can have a cool, so this is, someone did a version of DuckTales The Moon Theme in, Family Tracker, and did, VRC6 remix of it. So the VRC6 is has got some more channels in the track, so we'll play this. And give me a second while I look up some Game Genie codes. So the voices are custom sound samples. Everything else that was in there is probably so if we mute it and I can't really make that any bigger, but basically as you see here, you can see these are, pause this for a second. You've got the Pulse 1 and Pulse 2 channels. So these are square waves, triangle wave, and noise. So those are the 4 basic channels used by the NES. DPCM is just like a narrow 1-bit noise channel. So like Blades of Steel, the kind of Blades of Steel voices came from the DPCM, as well as some of the like tips and taps in the Super Mario Brothers 3. And those are a couple examples you might have seen. And then these extra channels here, well, you can't see my cursor. Sorry, I just realized. So the extra channels here, you've got 2 more pulse channels, and those pulse channels I think actually have custom waveforms in them, so they can basically, rather than just a range of, you know, one thing, they can sweep through a different range as well as a sawtooth wave. So all of the kind of basic sounds that you heard are just a set of complex things there. So you can see that you've got the pulses, you've got the triangle, you've got the noise, the PCM, and all this other stuff kind of going on at the same time. So the probably the kind of more aggressive drum beat that you've got there is probably coming from the DPCM, where you've just got kind of 4 different notes that are acting as your harmony. So square channel, like a square wave channel, is going to be hold on. So we'll go to my tutorial on this real quick. So a square wave channel is going to play. Right. So this is that why me? So the DPCM, you've got the kind of just the now normal we'll go the noise. Same route as we did again to the so here we're going to listen through and basically just start from the square waves and then go into the triangle waves, and it'll give you a sense of what these channels sound like. So if you actually look in this little box right here, you'll see that these actually look like squares, which is what they mean by a square wave. So a sine wave would be kind of a smooth pattern as far as it goes. And these are actually squares. And we're going to add the other. And again, this is going to sound how we normally hear it. We hear it together with this. And so now we got 2 square waves together. So you can see that they're kind of, they're not. And then the bass line comes in the triangle wave. We start to get more of that feel. And then we can add in the noise channel. So now you get the drum. And now it's pretty close. I think if you had this, you wouldn't argue. But when you toss in this last little bit here, you can hear the other drum. What makes the Mario 3 sound a little bit deeper than the Mario 1 sound is those things like the boo-boom that is a PCM sample stored that you wouldn't get any other way. So basically the PCMs are small little 1-bit waves, so you could store up to 256 kilobytes of them, but of course 256 kilobytes back in the day would be a very expensive chip just to do your sound. But yeah, so that's how that worked, and so that's a program called Family Tracker that I used to do that demo, so... But yeah, so that is my video. You can search Family Tracker on YouTube. It's one of the 2 hits there. If you want to find out more about it, it is there and ready for you to learn. Yeah, there's a tons of great stuff, and not only like remakes, but also original music. So there's tons and tons of stuff out there that is original stuff as well, and is super great. So people do tons of really exciting things with Family Tracker. I do recommend checking it out. One second. I have April support, so I guess that's good. So the cheats I've got on now are one-hit kills. So I kill enemies in one hit for the most part. I guess not all of them. As well as, like, pizza pickups give me full health. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get to a pizza pickup. So Family Tracker is really common music. So, like, the Shovel Knight theme was composed in Family Tracker. A lot of music out there was. So it's possible it wasn't, but if it is a Nintendo-ish style soundtrack, I would not be surprised at all to find out that it uses Family Tracker. If it's Super Nintendo, that's a little bit different, but even some of the more Super Nintendo-ish stuff is, you know, or not so NES-ish stuff is done in Family Tracker using more advanced chips that weren't used on, like, you know, the NES in the US, but were in Japan. So Castlevania 3 has a VRC6 chip in it, like we were demoing in that the video from wherever. So the video from, damn it. So the video with the DuckTales video that I played as my little interim thing is an example of a VRC6 chip because it uses those extra channels. So a Famicom could actually use that. The NES couldn't because they didn't actually wire the spots for the expansion cards into the expansion slots in the US version of the NES. But the Family Tracker could do it, and so that was something that was, you know, different between the Castlevania 3 in the US and in Japan, was that they could have more music. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you all nostalgic and shit. Oh, god damn it. How am I supposed to do that? There we go. No, not super effective. Alright, I'm gonna have to go back to that previous save state. This is like, I'm going like the wrong way or something. Let's see if I can find a different way to go. So yeah. Alright, I guess this is just the way I go. But yes, so so should we read some of CPG's old IRC quotes? We could do that. I don't know why I did that. Like, the number of times that I am quoted referring to the word ass in these, you know, these IRC quotes, I think it's too, it makes me uncomfortable. Not sure I'm comfortable with, not sure I'm comfortable with the person I used to be. I mean, to be fair, I was surrounded by a community of people who were just as fucked up, so there is that. Yeah, I don't know what a mod file is, so... One of the interesting things is actually that the GStreamer, which is like a piece of software for Linux, which is like supports playing all kinds of files. So if you have an MP3 player, there's a good chance that it uses GStreamer as like a backend, and it actually had support for NSF files, and it implemented that support for NSF files by implementing a full an NES like emulator. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I guess if you were, that would be unusual, but I feel like I'm more uncomfortable than I feel like I should be. I don't know how I'm supposed to get across that without taking damage. And like, what is this? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like here, okay, I'm supposed to manage this jump. Like, this is fine. Hello, attentive owl. How's it going? I am just peachy keen. I mean, I'm playing Turtles and sucking at it, so, you know, I could be better, but... Like, what? I can't... How am I supposed to get... I just have to take the hit, I think. Ah! This is kind of crappy. But yeah, welcome to the stream, attentive owl. How are you? Alright, let's at least do this. Take one hit. Like, do I literally have to take like 4 hits just to get through that part? I mean, I know that they did just give me a full pizza, so clearly I'm expected to be able to take them, but man, oh man, jerks. Oh, yep. Yeah, I thought these quotes were gonna be funny, but reading them in the context of trying to think about saying them aloud in this stream, I've decided they're not funny. They're just overtly, like, gross. So, that's not gonna be happening. I have changed my mind. Alright, what do we got down here? I really liked Ghostbusters as a kid. Like, that was the movie that I just watched over and over and over again. There's nothing over here. Well, thanks, game. Sending me to a dead end. Jeez Louise. But yeah, attentive owl, I'm doing good. I'm a little bit frustrated by this Turtles game, but not too bad. I think there's still a chance that I will beat it now that I'm cheating hardcore, so that's good. And hopefully that'll be okay. I have not seen it in a long time either. I didn't watch the new Ghostbusters either, which I still sort of want to do. I did buy a ticket just for, like, you know, solidarity, women, etc. As a social justice paladin, you know, I'm big on that. I like the idea of more women taking leading roles in movies. There was a pizza, but I never saw a way to get it. When my daughter was young, she would watch Lemony Snicket's A Tale of Unfortunate Events over and over and over again. And I actually just watched the, fuck. Oh, seriously? That's what you're gonna do to me? Well, screw you then. Alright, so I need to do this. I mean, I think the Star Trek movies are a lot more niche than Star Wars, like, just in general. I don't think that's actually that surprising. Like, I don't think that they appeal to the same audiences necessarily. Like, there's certainly overlap. They're both geeky, nerdy movies, but, I mean, Star Wars is more space opera, and Star Trek is more diplomacy in space. Alright, so how do I get that? Can't jump up there. I think it's just a trick. Not possible. Oh no! Oh. Okay. Ah! I grew up watching TNG, so TNG was my jam when I was a kid. My mom and I would watch it. Alright, so 2, 3. Oh, god damn it. So ideally, I would like to get through there taking 3 hits total. 1 there. No. One, 2, 3. So as far as I can tell, that's the best I'm gonna be able to do. Yeah, so I watched Titan AE as a kid, but not for a long time. Not since a long time ago, so. By the way, CPG rant thoughts on tonight? Good, bad, ugly? Happy to take feedback. Also, if you have like CPG rant topics you want, feel free to ask for them. I'm not able to do every topic, obviously, but I do have a broad range, so. Cool. Proto Sam, I don't think that's unfair at all. Like, I think that some reboots, it's alright to just say, nope, I want my old version and that's it. That's all there is to it. Babies don't need wigs. I'll rant about how babies don't need wigs. I don't really like babies though, so I'm not a good person to speak to what they need. That's one of the things I'm very happy about in my life, is that I got to skip babies. I started parenting when my kids were 2 and 6, so my 2-year-old had not yet started talking, but she had at least grown out of just screaming whenever she wanted something. I mean, old people are tall, babies are short. This seems like a relatively easy distinction to make. Maybe I'm missing something. How do I get that? God damn it. Trick pizza. Oh, I wanted mine to grow up. I didn't want them to stay toddlers. I like the toddler phase, but I wanted them to start older. Alright, so here's the thing. Go away. Fuck. Because behind that, there's a thing. Okay. Wasn't sure how long it would last. That did not actually seem to be worth it, because I can actually make it through that room without taking any hits if I'm good at it, so. Woo! I think that's called not really having kids. I don't know if that's, it feels a little bit out of the realm of kids having. Okay. So I did at least I don't think I'm gonna have enough oh, right. Okay, I'm gonna briefly turn off my cheats here. Input, nope, that's the wrong button. I wanna see if I can beat this boss legit, because this is the last boss and I feel like I should at least try. Oh, I can't just hit him in the foot. Well, I have to say that if you're starting at 20, speaking from the experience of my 19-year-old, I'm not sure you're yet into the appreciative young adult phase. I feel like that's something that maybe comes later. I'm not really sure yet, so... I defeated Shredder and saved the world. Now I can turn back to human form. It's not late yet, Jose. I am great. Thanks for my help. Let's celebrate with a pizza. The adventure of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is concluded. Okay. So what should we do now? You want more games? You want something else? we could look at how a CPG was really stupid and couldn't figure out how to rebind his IRC keys. So tried to swap windows and did not quite work. And so someone tried to help me out. And apparently I broke many of my letters, so somehow I broke my H key, and my O key, and, maybe my space bar? I don't know exactly what happened there, but, yeah. Anytime you grip and pull something on a computer, you have a fairly good chance of breaking shit, but you could always ask Bit. Bit, should I pull the processor out? No. Am I gonna fuck shit up? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. There you go. That settles it. Yeah, these are the types of things that we argued with. So this is after Jess and I were together, but who needs friends when you can sit alone in your room and drink? You know, who needs friends when you can develop multiple personality disorder? More turtles? I don't think I'm doing more turtles. I vacuumed! Nice sucking, Chris! Yes! I am the good at sucking! Alright, done with this. No one's giving me any, like, great suggestions. Have a great night, Stingray! Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, now I'm into the boring part of the night. I don't know, maybe I should just call it early. Go to bed. Ooh, that was the wrong move. Alright, whatever. Yeah, I remember mods. So I actually was a kind of an admin on a mud called Lunar Eclipse for a couple of years. I helped develop an area and rooms and other things like that. I, was not a huge mud player, but I did get into them. I got into them relatively late, so I got into them after they were no longer cool. Yeah, sorry. I just realized that I was not gaming appropriately. Let's do this. Go ahead and drop here, and you can go there. Go. Thanks, Dylan. I got it. I mean, you won't see this for another couple minutes probably, but, whatever. I appreciate it. But yeah, so I played on MUDs, but mostly much later than everybody else did. I didn't have the internet until relatively late among my friend group, although I think relatively early in the big scheme of things. So I never had, Prodigy or CompuServe or other things like that where you had the kind of portal spaces. I was more of a, we got online when you could actually get internet directly from places instead. So my dad would actually go through, we went through all of the like 1 month free trial discs that we got from all of the providers, and then later went into whichever one he picked that was going to be the best. So I think I played on MUDs probably when I was in, I don't know, probably in like 2000-ish. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm playing the European version, and it feels a little bit faster to me, and I'm not sure if I, like, accidentally bumped the speed, or if the 50 FPS version was just a little bit faster for some reason. Both of which are possible. I know there is a speed set. Oh, but the speed set on medium, so I can see that right there that I didn't do that. So I don't think we went through that so much, but we did, Oh, God damn it. Oh, will this do it? I think this will do it. Yes! Brilliant. There we go. Yeah, so I think we probably had... So we did have, the internet on Windows 3.1, but it was... Yeah, I don't know. That would have been something my dad would have figured out. So it was... I mean, I was only like 12 at the time, right? So it's not like I was super, young or anything. In fact, my first internet access actually came as a part of Juno. So Juno was a, like, email-only thing where you could dial into, like, a specific server that just got you your email. And so I had, like, crschmidt@juno.com, and I could email back and forth with people. And you would dial up, and it would download your email, and the ads it was going to show you on the sidebar, and that was it. So that was my first kind of personal account of email. And you wouldn't, like, stay online, or there wasn't any online things, you just had email access. So I don't really know how I used that. It's kind of a weird thing for me to think about now. Like, if all I had was email, who was I emailing? But I got on religiously and was very excited when I got to check my email. That was something that was very important to me, so... Oh, no, that's okay. Alright. No, not... Kind of a waste of all that stacking I did, but whatever. Still got it done. Got the job done! Nah, that's useless. Yeah, news groups are definitely no longer... Although I did still use NNTP at my previous job. So that was how we did all of our internal company communication, was via an NTP server maintained by Mark, who's here in the chat in part, as well as the rest of our ops team, of course. But yeah, so that was, I used NNTP for 8 years from 2005 to 2013 as my primary way of communicating with my coworkers. It's one of the big things I missed when I went to Google, was like using Google Groups and email is just not even compared to the effectiveness that I could achieve with news groups, and I really miss that. But at Google, everything's just email. It's all email, Google Groups and email, so. I mean, intranet is still a thing insofar as you have, you know, network which is not accessible more generally to the internet. So Google's intranet is something that, like, you have access to debugging tools and internal websites, and like Go links will actually work, which they won't on the outside web. So. GameFAQs had a chat, huh? That's not a thing that I would have known. Hey! Lord Pixel King, how's it going? Boop, boop, boop. Trolling Napster chat rooms. I did that. Yep. So I had a I think I remember Napster even before they added chat rooms, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I definitely had a Napster account early on. So I was using Napster in 2000, 2001-ish, and yeah, this is a really bad place for all that. Oh, that sucks. I'm gonna have to clear the yellow and then clear the blue. Ah! Oh, pay attention. Alright. Let's get some blue action up in here. See you there. I do not know. Like, whether each level is the same every time you play it, or are they different? Yeah, I don't know. My guess is that they are random. The number, I think the number is fixed, but I bet where they're placed is random. But that's pretty much a total guess. I do not know. Oh, that was stupid of me. Oh, well, this. Yeah, those two are a little bit different. I miss the news servers at Metacarta. They were great. And we maintained that all the way through our time at Nokia, which was nice. Brought that piece of the culture with us. Yeah, I know a lot of people. The funny thing is that, like, in the company I work in now, everyone thinks I work on a different team than I actually do, because I do so much, like, random shit. They're like, oh, yeah, you work on the Band-Aid team. And I'm like, nope. They're like, well, why are you always doing Band-Aid stuff then? I'm like, because somebody's got to do it. So I've got a lot of people who, like, know me but don't know exactly what I do, and, like, think I work on teams that I don't, and so on and so forth. I think AWOL actually had that problem. He was talking to Jess, and she realized that he did not know what my actual job description is, or job title, whatever. Yes. Yeah. At the big company we moved to, that was not it. It was not that we looked at the infrastructure and said, "Oh yeah, so that's how you do it when you're a big company." It's that we looked at the infrastructure and said, "Oh, you don't do it." Like where's all the things that you need? How do you do? And it turns out that you don't do, which is why, you know, in part Nokia is what it is today. So, you know, there's that. I mean, I think looking at Nokia at the time, I guess it wasn't quite as clear at the time, but looking at Nokia shortly after we started there, it was pretty obvious that we were getting into, it was a trap a little bit. You know, Nokia, from the time we were acquired until 2 years later, I think the stock price dropped by 10x. I remember a coworker of mine looking at the employee stock purchase program and saying, like, I mean, of course it makes sense to be in the stock purchase program. Like, the only way it wouldn't make sense is if Nokia stock consistently went down by 25% every quarter for a year straight. And immediately after he said that, and I believe signed up to the stock purchase program, it went down every 25% every year for a quarter straight, or for a year straight. So. Congratulations. I've made it further. I don't like any of my spots for this. Or that. Ugh! This is terrible. Giving me nothing good here. Nothing good. No, take that at least. Take this out of here. Let that go down, even though I shouldn't. There we go. Didn't exactly help anything, but didn't make anything too terribly worse. I'm not sure if that's a win or a loss. Oh, that was dumb. That was a bad move. I'm gonna pay for it for a while now. Fuck. Yeah, these pieces just move a little bit faster, I think, in this particular mode than they do in the non-PAL version, and I think it's part of what is screwing me up. Right, let's at least do that. I have a whole mess over there, but we'll get there. Alright, now at least I got a place to put reds and yellows. Alright. Take that, put that there, pull this out. I think I'm gonna come at that yellow pile from underneath. And just try and take that. Oh, that's not gonna work. Damn it. I was hoping I'd just be able to take out the blue there and have it fall down and I would be in the free and clear, but I just realized there's another space up at the top there, which is gonna hold it up as well, so that's not gonna work for me. When I do this, that'll drop a couple of them, but not all of them. Not very useful. I should have dropped that on the other side. Okay, red. Deal at the bottom. Oh, I should have flipped that up. Nope. Well, I should have flipped that up, but whatever. When I almost messed it up once, I don't need to worry about it. All good. So yeah, this is part of the evening where everyone gets bored. And they're like, oh, I'm so tired of this. Blah, blah, blah. Ah. I'm going to bed. CPU's not talking to me. It's my own fault. I haven't prepped enough for a stream in a while. Need to get some more notes on the interesting things in the world over the past week. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games that it's cute, but I mean, they just sell it on the virtual. I mean, I assume that they sell it on the virtual console. I'd have to ask Stingray, but it's if they sell it on the virtual console, I'm not sure there's a lot of value in them remaking it, because it's not like they would make something different out of it, you know? Alright. Oh crap, I could have used that. Not thinking. Alright, we'll use this. That in there. Red, yellow. I mean, the way you grow an audience is you consistently and reliably make high quality content. You know, do something, figure out what makes you special, why people would want to watch you, what thing you've got that nobody else has got, and flaunt it, you know? You've got a booty, shake your booty and show it. If you've got, you know, smarts, if you're a speedrunner, if you're better at something than anybody else is, take advantage of that. If you're not better at something than everybody else is, then take it and have a you know, some kind of, you know, something about your personality, something that appeals about you that doesn't appeal about other people. The game isn't really what matters. I mean, the games that aren't in high demand are a thing. Oh, how do you gain an audience? I see. I mean, you gain an audience by oh shit, nuggets. Alright. It's fine. This is fine, dog. Got fire all around me, but I got it. I got this. There we go. So yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that the you know, viewers don't come by magic. Viewers come by building something that people want to find. If people don't want to find content about the game that you're playing, then they're not going to find you. If people do want to find content about the game that you're playing, then they'll find you. It's that simple. I think that, you know, I am oftentimes, I think there's a fair amount, like Vector Man. I get a bunch of like search hits in my logs for Vector Man. I assume this means there isn't a lot of Vector Man demand relative to, you know, volume of content. I don't have another good explanation for why that would be. But if you're making something niche and it's niche because nobody really cares, then I'm not sure that it's like practical to do that. Yeah, it's great if there's like a game out there that no one's playing and a lot of people want content for, but like, for example, this Dr. Mario playthrough is not going to score me a whole ton of points because, like, who cares about Dr. Mario? It's cute for a little while, but it gets boring pretty quickly, and you know, it's not something that people are chomping at the bit for. It's more Dr. Mario gameplay. But, you know, that doesn't mean that there's nothing out there. It doesn't mean that there's not an ability to become something, but... But yeah, I mean, if you've got higher demand than you've got supply, then I don't think that you have to worry too much about it, so long as you're producing content that's going to be interesting to the community that's watching you. I think producing interesting content is the trick there, and I think a lot of people kind of overestimate how interesting gaming content is because there's a small number of people who've been pretty successful with it. But god damn it, I did that the exact wrong way, and I knew I was going to too, but. So yeah, making interesting gaming content is just hard. And I think a lot of people are like, well, like a lot of people watch, you know, XYZ or whatever else like that, and really kind of underestimate, you know, this is the Dunning-Kruger conversation I had during my last CPG rant. You know, a lot of people look at themselves and think that they are much better than they are. And that's understandable. You know, everyone kind of wants to think they're better than they are, but an inability to accept that, no, you're really just kind of shit can be hard. I think there's also just, you know, some elements of luck and some elements of everything else that goes into making a success of yourself is there as well. So Protosam, I think that you have, I think that you have a pretty deep knowledge of retro games and you're pretty good at them. That certainly helps. I think that you have an ability to be an entertaining and open, you know, storyteller and hanger-outer, right? So you're the kind of guy that someone can just sit back, crack open a beer with, and hang out with. That's like, I think you've got that going for you. Your deep knowledge of wrestling and other sports ball things, I think certainly has not hurt you in my presence. I don't know if that has a meaningful impact on these things or whether you see any of that in most of your streams, but I think there's that. And I think some of it, like I said, is just, you know, consistency and playing something that, you know, not everyone sees a lot around of is something that I think can be helpful. But, you know, the biggest way to look at that is to look at, you know, where is your traffic coming from? I do think with, unfortunately, my experience is that this is actually a little bit harder than it should be, because recommendations seems to, some source of traffic that at least I get a lot of seems to count as recommendations from my own videos to watch that video. So, like, people watching this video will be recommended from this video, and that doesn't make any sense from a practical perspective, so I assume it's some kind of, like, logging artifact of how YouTube reports this data or something like that. But that certainly makes digging in a little bit harder. But looking at your traffic sources and figuring out, are you getting found via search or via, you know, browse and discovery? Are you getting people who are your subscribers or people who are not your subscribers? I think, you know, pulling in, I mean, YouTube is a platform for serendipitous discovery and search in a lot of ways. So if you get a lot of search stuff in there, hey, Ivan, and the Gamers Haven Raiders, good to see you. David Hunter, That Fat Gamer, and Ivan, I appreciate you hanging out here tonight. We're just playing some Dr. Mario. We just finished up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, so finishing up tonight with some Dr. Mario and talking about how you become rich and famous on YouTube, or at least, you know, slightly more famous than nothing. So yeah, welcome XX Midnight Wolf XX, Kumo, and the Gamers Haven. Good to see all of you. Happy to have you here tonight. But yeah, so I don't have all the answers. I don't necessarily know, like, being special isn't the only way to succeed. Thanks a lot for subscribing, David Hunter. It still makes me smile that all of my sub noises have different sounds associated with them. So I took the Zelda noise, the do-do-do-do, and I recorded it in GarageBand with like 12 different instruments. And so every time someone subscribes, there's a different sound that you get, which is really nice when you get a raid and you get a whole bunch all at once. So just got done playing some Walking Dead, the Telltale game, right? I've never really gotten into Telltale things. I did Game of Thrones with my wife, and so that was one that we played just like one weekend. I kind of, you know, picked things over her shoulder. Just the first episode, it was before the rest of them had come out. Why am I doing this exactly the wrong way? Because I'm oh my god, seriously? My brain is just not working. Don't think we're gonna okay, let's clear out some space here. Clear out some of this shit in the middle. Now, go ahead and let you take that. Oh, fuck. I was gonna try and avoid that and get it the other way or something. I don't know what I'm even thinking at this point. I'm not, clearly. Alright, we can at least take this out of here. Oh, I was trying to rotate it around and I didn't make it. There we go. That was not helpful. Yeah, so Life is Strange is fun, and I do want to do it. I can't do it this weekend. This Friday, I'm going to be doing, I think, some indie Steam games. I picked up one of the games that I actually got a key mailer key for and some other stuff like that, and I'm going to play through those, but I can't do Life is Strange this weekend because I'm in New Hampshire and I won't have my PC with me, so, but it is one that I want to get back to. I played through the first episode, and I bought the other ones, but I haven't gone back to it yet, so, alright. I am 90% sure at this point I'm going to lose this level. If I pull this off, it's going to be a pretty impressive comeback. I might be able to do it. I'm getting a little boosts here. That just cleared out a ton of space relative to where I was, so that's pretty good. Oh, fuck! And then I fucked shit up that way. I just, like, as soon as I step out of the hole, I step right back into it. Alright. Take this out of here. At least stack up the blues here. And I guess that's why they call it the blues. Oh, I'm sorry I won't load for you, Holy. Better late than never, Holy Terror. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in with that raid. And thank you very much to Gamers Haven. I hope you enjoyed your stream tonight, and I appreciate the raid. So I'm the Chris who plays games, playing retro games every Monday and Friday at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I am sometimes known for my CPG rants, where I give you a little piece of my mind on one topic or another. Sometimes I tell people why YouTube gaming is better than Twitch. Sometimes I tell people why, even if someone's being a little shit, sometimes they still have redeeming qualities. Speaking as someone who was, for a long time, a little shit, who I think has at least some redeeming qualities. Sometimes I tell you a little bit about my life, when I was a software developer. If you're ever interested in something about my life or something about my opinion, you're always free to ask. I've often told people you can pick any year of my life, and I will try my very best to give you a story from that year of my life to the best of my memory. You can ask me about my first kiss when I was 18. You can talk about when I got my first real job a year or so later. Talk about going to university for computer programming or dropping out. I work at Google on YouTube's video infrastructure team, so my job is to keep your videos from buffering and a daily basis. So good luck, Mass Effect. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Mass Effect is the flavor of the week. In the stream, we also have some cool things. So there's an RPG. Above my head, you'll actually see a little creature popping up every now and then. Yeah, so the viruses are random. The number of them is the same, but the viruses are random. Someone asked earlier. Talk about the 33rd year of my life. So the 33rd year of my life, I spent the first day of it puking my guts out because I stupidly got drunk. To be fair, I stupidly and intentionally got super drunk the night before, knowingly. I guess the first thing I did in the 33rd year of my life was actually to wander across the street in my pajamas to a house party that was going on at 3 a.m. and, you know, get in a conversation about whether it makes sense to eat the rich. So I'd say that that's not like an unreasonable start to my 33rd year on the planet. I think that that's an okay place to start. There we go. See, that was nice. I got one on the yellow, one on the blue. Like, I feel like that actually worked out quite well. I'll give you that. Take that. Go here. I'm gonna try and sneak this in here. Take them both out. Well, okay, fine. When he says 33rd year of my life, he means when I'm 33. I'm pretty sure. If you mean the 33rd year of my life, as Carl pointed out, this is my 34th year because when you count in ordinals, you know, my first year of my life was when I was 0 to 1. Yeah, so in my 33rd year, I did get to, what did I get to do? I went to VidCon for the second time. I got to go to PAX East. I actually got my wife to come with me to LA, which was not a thing that I expected, and really, you know, spent a whole bunch of time hanging out with streaming and understanding more about it. I started the CPG Rant series, so, you know, before that there wasn't any of that. Yeah. See, I knew what you were talking about, but pedantically speaking, Carl is right. That was the 33rd year of my life. But yes, so my first kiss was at prom. I was dating a girl, and we each still maintained that the other started the kiss. But yeah, so at prom I had my first kiss during the theme song or whatever it was for the prom. Hey, Witty Witty, how's it going? Coding overnight does equal buggy code. That is 100% true. I can attest to that from many personal instances. All right, I think I can sneak both of these guys in here, just like that. Boom shakalak. But yeah, and then today at work, I actually wrote code today. I was writing Java code today. So working on some code for being able to monitor client-reported errors during rollouts of the YouTube website, so that we can make sure that we hopefully have fewer of them. So that was nice. It's very rare that I can feel like I have successfully kind of been productive code-wise recently, so that was encouraging for me. I got my car back on Sunday. That was good. I still don't actually know what was wrong with it because I got it back on Friday rather. I don't know what was wrong with it because the service department was closed when I picked it up, and so I didn't get a chance to just be like, okay, what the hell was wrong such that my car with 5,000 miles on it needed a new clutch, because that doesn't seem normal. But unfortunately I have not yet had that conversation. And I think when I finish up this next round, when I hit my next game over, I will be bailing and heading to bed. Thank you very much, Caleb Dobson, for the subscription. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And Party King. I love the Party King. I go to him for all of my party needs. But yeah, so over the course of the last year, I really kind of stepped up streaming. You know, I feel like I've gotten myself into a groove on that. Of course, I'm not growing anymore, so, you know, I stepped up streaming and did not see a lot of success from it. Thank you very much, Kumo. I appreciate it. But that's okay. Like, I think I've come to the conclusion that if I wanted to be successful, I would have to change up what I do, and like more successful than I am, I'd have to change up what I do, and I'm okay with what I do. So I think I'm just gonna leave it as is and be. There we go. That was nice. All right, so now I got no reds, so all they're gonna give me is reds for a while. No, that was not smart. I'm not really sure what I was thinking I was gonna do there, but... Oh, did I just screw up and use a red in a way I shouldn't have? I'm pretty sure I did. Alright, let's get rid of this so we can try and get some reds in here. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Ah! Yeah, or chaos. We do not know, but we're aware of the issue and still looking into it. If it happens, DM me the link to the video ID, and you can, if you're using Stream now, you can reset your stream key, which should quickly like reset your video ID and get you out of the broken state. It's obviously not great to have to change your video ID in order to fix things, so it's just a workaround. But if you can shoot me your video ID, so right click on the video, click get video ID, and shoot that over to me, and then reset your stream key. It should at least help you work around it. Again, just a workaround, not like this is the state it should be in, but it's what I got at the moment. Alright. There we go. Alright, let's see if we can quickly get rid of a bunch of this stuff so that we're not scraping at the end when things are going super fast. Hey, Queen Nola, how's it going? We're just playing some Dr. Mario. I realize my thumbnail no longer says the thing I'm playing, but it's one of those kind of late at night things. I'm not going to change it now. But yeah, so we played some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 earlier, and now moved on to Dr. Mario, one of my favorites when I was a kid. This game is so chill to me. It's not a great streaming game because it takes a lot of concentration. It's actually very hard for me to read the chat in this game and not completely screw up. So I don't tend to do it a lot, but I was just looking for something that was kind of sit back, relax, chillax, and this fit the bill as far as I was concerned. I know some people would consider something like this very frustrating, but for me, it's just like, nah, it's cool. It's cool. We good. We good. Alright. Slide this all the way in. Yes. Alright. Take that out of there. Chat kills. They do. It does. It does. It does. Alright, come on. Seriously? Give me something other than the goddamn reds. Yeah. Yeah, it is really nice. I mean, I think the NES Mini, you know, people have asked me like, you know, are you gonna get it? And I'm like, no, I already have like an emulator that can play all the games that I want to play. But it's really nice for them to bring that stuff back for a new generation in a way that's, you know, more enticing because it's a new toy. You know, it's the new hit thing, and I really enjoy that. You know, some of these games, there's really just, I think, a very different. You know, so I think some of what you got from older games like this, you now get from indie games. So you can get some of the same feel from a lot of indie games that you know used to get from games like this. But in general, like new AAA games are not, you know, in this vein or not. They're not like this basically. And so to be able to have, you know, I still enjoy and love the classics and love playing them and love sharing them with people and introducing people to new things they've never seen and sharing things that people have seen with them again and reminding them and so on and so forth. So, you know, some of these games even I look at and I'm like, oh, I'd forgotten what the game was even called. And then you know, someone recommends it and I dig it up and I'm like, oh yeah, that was my favorite game when I was a kid or, you know, whatever else. So it's fun. It's a good time. I mean, the reality is that again, half of this is like trying to read chat, trying to play the game, and I am not necessarily playing at the best that I would if I was playing, you know, quietly off stream. Oh, fuck! I thought that was gonna rotate in. That was stupid. But yeah, I'm making a lot of what would be rookie mistakes if it were not, you know, for me being streaming, and I'm giving myself a little bit of a pass on that. I think this is on the NES Mini. I could be wrong. Good night, Nico. Have a good night. I'll see you later. I'm not gonna be up for much longer anyway, so you're not gonna miss much. Oh, fuck! Alright, whatever. But yeah, so some of the differences are going to be actual strategy differences. They're going to be cases where, you know, I am choosing to do something that's different intentionally. But a lot of the differences are just going to be, nope, I'm a screw up. So don't get too convinced in either direction. Oh, why? That was... no. Exactly the opposite of what I should have been doing. So it goes. Alright. Get in here. Take that out. You're gone. Oh, that was not what I meant to do. Alright, it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. Alright, let's get some of this going on over here. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Ow! So many of these are just mistakes. In case there was any question whatsoever, I am not in a state where I am being successful at the things I'm attempting to accomplish. Damn it! Alright, that's it. We're done. Guinea Pop is a game that, it's got, it's like a anime game. It's like an anime Switch 3 game, right? So, it's got anime characters that get more undressed as you do your match 3 and buy them gifts and everything else like that. So, I don't know. Something like that. Puzzle game / dating sim. Yeah, exactly. Because that's exactly what you think goes together in most situations is puzzle game and dating sim. Anyway, so that's it for the night. I'm gonna quickly pull up and see if there's anybody cool that I want to hang out with for a while, since I'm usually up for another 45 minutes anyway. So yeah, We'll see if there's anybody cool playing anything cool. I'm not gonna do any Mass Effect because I don't like doing whatever's the new hotness. Well, thank you very much. I am the Chris who plays games, playing retro games every Monday at 9:15, whatever I feel like every Friday at 9:15. This Friday, I will be playing indie games from Steam, probably at least Run Rabbit Run and maybe Bastion. I haven't decided what else, so definitely stop by for that. I'll be doing that, of course, at 11 o'clock will be the CPG rant of the evening, and yeah, other than that, thank you very much for hanging out. We're going to go hang out with Leif. Leif is a regular of the stream, and he is playing some Fire Emblem Heroes on his phone, it looks like. So, thank you all for being here. We're going to hop in here, Septipus RPG Raid, this link, CPG Raid. Follow the link, type CPG Raid, say hello, or don't. It's fine too. I appreciate you all being here, and I hope you have a great night. Bye-bye.